On this week's episode of Friend Code, we're talking about the latest fighter added to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Min Min from ARMS. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Friend Code. I'm your host, Michael Damiani. This week, I'm joined by two very special guests, Steve and Simmons from YoVideoGames. How's it going, you two?
Hey, Mike. How's it going?
You might be expecting Kenny as well from YoVideoGames, but unfortunately, Kenny couldn't make it. So we'll try and get Kenny on a future episode. But hey, this is something I've been trying to get happen, was to get the entire YoVideoGames crew on an episode of this. So I'm just excited to get two of you on here. So thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah, no problem.
We got you, man.
So Smash Brothers, Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, we got a new fighter announced today. First fighter of Fighter Pass Volume 2, Min Min from ARMS. And this has been a while. It's been a while since we've been waiting for this.
Yeah, that's kind of my general takeaway was kind of like, well, yeah, it's kind of been a little bit of a long time coming. I feel when they announced Season 2 for Fighters Pass, and everyone kind of read that fine text at the bottom that said, you know, these will be delivered by December 31st, 2021. I took that immediately as like, okay, my first takeaway is this. They're probably not going to be all this year, obviously, and they probably not even most of them will be this year. So I started saying, I think whenever that happened, I'm like, okay, here's my guess. When Byleth came out, I think January or so, January, February. I'm like, here's what's going to happen. The team's going to go on vacation, and then we'll get 2 characters out of the 6 this year, and then the next 4 will be next year. Because I think what's going to happen is they're going to go on vacation, and then we'll come back and get those. Like only about 2 characters this year, but then kind of the apocalypse happened, so we basically things went really dark for a while. But I mean, I thought it was interesting how, if you noticed, they recorded this on May 2nd, kind of like right in the thick of everything really getting bad. So it wasn't like.
He actually predicted that things were going to get bad in the video. He actually says, like, yeah, you know, we're hoping things will get better, but we think things are not. They're going to be tough. So I
think he said something like, you know, I have a feeling they won't be like he in person.
Yeah, I have a feeling like things won't get better. I'm like, yeah.
And I was like,
I feel it too, buddy.
Where's like the meme of like the narrators, and spoiler alert, they did not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty rough. The game does look really really cool, and the new character does look a lot of fun. For me, I thought that an ARMS character would have made it in way earlier. Like it's a Nintendo game. Why are they not promoting the Nintendo game?
Right. No. I'm 100% with you with that, Steve. Yeah, I felt the same way. I was like,
long. So it seems strange it took them this long.
So I think the general consensus or thought is that ARMS came out June 2017 and Smash came out December 2018, and they were just too far along developing Smash Brothers to put an ARMS character in there at the start. Although my personal feeling is that I think it came down to this. Like, they probably had development resource, and they said, we have enough time to put this many new characters in the game, right? And it came down to, do we prioritize an ARMS character, or do we say prioritize Simon Belmont and Richter Belmont? Now, I'm not saying that was the case, but I'm just saying I wonder if it was maybe one of those scenarios where they were like, okay, we only have time to get this many new characters ready for launch, and then we'll save these characters for DLC. And he made like a sort of conscious decision, like, you know, ARMS is cool, but I think we really need to focus on maybe some of these really fan requested ones like Simon Belmont and King K. Rool and stuff like that. So
yeah, whatever the order is, I'm glad that they're in there. At least they have more characters for us to play, and that's what it really comes down to, just more characters for us to play. With that being said, what blew my mind, as opposed to ARMS, was the fact that they acknowledged Tekken in the game with the Mii. So, I mean, all the other Mii, what was that? Another one? There was a Nintendo one. What were the characters? What were the characters?
So they added Marie and Cal, was it they added Splatoon
Callie and
characters.
Marie.
Yeah, thank you. They added the other ARMS character, the Ninja one. I forget their name right now. That was the first one they showed off. I was Hayachi, but then they put Vault Boy.
Yeah.
The Fallout thing from Bethesda. Like, what? Okay, that was so random and weird.
You know what?
That's the thing. That's the thing, is that everything, like the characters that are on Smash are supposed to be random and weird. Like you're supposed to be surprised. Like, what? Like it's like putting Negan in Tekken. You're like, what? Why is this happening? Who decided this? It's like, sure, go ahead, just do whatever at this point. I don't care, just do it.
Negan will forever puzzle me.
Yeah,
because like it wasn't like it's still going, right? They're still making new Walking Dead, or is it done?
No, they're still making it. They're still
making it. So it's not like, okay, it's not like this show was over or anything, but it was like, it was so far after the fact of Negan being introduced.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Negan. And then and then obviously when you do these crossovers, you do it for cross promotion and whatnot. And I'm like, how many super casual Walking Dead fans
are actually
going to be like,
fans.
I should buy Tekken 7,
Yeah.
Because Negan is in there. So
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that was
it was an odd choice.
That one will always puzzle me, because I'm just like, was it just? And that actually kind of is a good segue though, because it's like, it seems like it was a very personal choice on the producer's part.
It was a promotional thing. It's kind of like when you see Street Fighter the movie, the live action movie. It's what movie companies do. They say, hey, what's popular now? This thing is popular now. Let's do a movie of that. This is literally Harada going, hey, what's popular now? Oh, people are into Walking Dead. Okay, just do that. Who cares? Just put it in there. Shut up. Don't ask me for shit. That's literally what that's
right. So I'm just kind of like, it's kind of interesting. It feels like, oh, this is just what the producer wanted, which it's probably why, is why they chose Min Min. Because it said this is what the producer personally wanted to see in the game was Min Min, rather than Springman or Ribbon Girl or anyone else. So I mean,
but it goes back to what Michael said, is that why is there a Fallout character in Smash? It has nothing to do with a fighting game whatsoever. Why?
Well, I mean, Nintendo courts Bethesda, like Skyrim on Switch. They've been like, that was a big deal for them as part of their initial campaign when they initially revealed the Switch back in 2017. You saw Skyrim in their promotional materials for that. So Nintendo really has like a uphill battle when they're courting third parties. So I think doing whatever is possible to appease them and like keep building those relationships. But at the same time, going to like what you're talking about, personal choices, Sakurai probably just like likes something about Fallout and wanted a part of it in Smash Brothers. We've seen stuff that has like no ties to Nintendo in terms of history. Like you have Joker in there, Scramble will eventually be coming to Switch, but at the time Persona 5 had no presence on Nintendo. I was like, what Joker? Why is Joker in Smash? And then even like Cloud, it's like, okay, we get into a technicality about like Kingdom Hearts game on GBA and stuff, Chain of Memories, but other than that, it's like
he was a card in a card
game.
Yeah,
it's a card. It's like Cloud is not like, oh, this is having
how does this make it in?
But now 5.7 is on Switch, the OG one, so it's like things kind of play out in a way where you can see some of the business decisions behind it, but also
although I
very
see
clearly Sakurai's choice.
I want to say there was a point, I think it was either a Famitsu article or an interview in a Japanese publication where he talked about Cloud, right? Why Cloud? And someone from Squaresoft was just like, okay, this seems weird. Why are you sure you want to do Cloud? Terra seems like more appropriate for Nintendo. And Sakurai said, I feel Cloud best represents RPGs and the Final Fantasy name. When people think Final Fantasy, they think Cloud. He says he's like the most known representative character of the brand, so that's why he really pushed for him, even though it had no Nintendo connections, which kind of seemed to be a theme going forward, really. Like for
just like Cloud, there you go.
He's like
Cloud.
And I absolutely agreed with him. If someone came to me and said, "Hey, we want an RPG rep for like non-Nintendo RPGs. Who do you think is the most popular RPG character ever?" I'd be like, "It's Cloud," like without a doubt. So, but now I think we're kind of getting into more personal territory stuff. Well, like, and we love Terry. We love Terry, right, Steve? Like, we love
Yeah, of
SNK.
course.
But
Are you okay?
I don't think there was any huge business decision behind we've got to get an SNK rep in there.
Yeah.
That was like Sakurai loves SNK.
Yeah, and then it's like, hey, can we get these characters in there? Sure.
I think Sakurai's like, I want Terry in this game. Like, I will put your Fire Emblem character in there, fine, but I want my Terry in there, and I love him for that. But SNK's never been, and especially in North America where we live, it's never been huge. Like, everyone kind of knows about it. If you're in fighting games, you know about SNK, obviously. But if you're not into fighting games, like, you probably don't know who Terry is. And I read lots of reports about people who, like, I didn't know who this character was. Like, what really just was Joe down the street. And it's like, okay, I get it. Like, SNK is not the household name in North America like he is maybe in some other countries. But that was a Sakurai personal choice. And Min Min here, again, seems to be like, this was a personal choice from the ARMS development team where they're like, we really like Min Min. Put Min Min in. That's our favorite character we made. So, like, weird favoritism, but it's cool. I appreciate it because it diversifies a bit of the roster. We've been like, besides Kazooie and one half of Byleth, there was no girls in the first DLC pack. And, just... this kind of helps even things out a little bit, and it's just also not like, again, I know they had the thing where it's like everyone's the main character in ARMS, and I was like, okay, whatever, that's like PR talk, when they said that, and I'm like, this is not, you're not the cover, this is not the cover box art character, this is.
I don't think ARMS really had like a story or anything like that as far as the characters go. They were just fighters in a game. They all look weird.
Well, it's like they kind of did, but like even Sakurai talked about that. He's like, what like he said he asked the developers, like, what's the story behind them?
Are they robots?
Cyborgs?
Are they advanced humans? Like, what's the story with them?
Yeah, they're just there. So I guess with that, you can actually say, oh yeah, they're all like, there's no story. They're all main characters. Because if there's no story, then any one of the characters can be a main character. It's like, okay, fuck it.
I vaguely remember there being some sort of story mode or trailer with a story in it, but whatever.
Oh, with ARMS?
Like very vaguely, I remember something about that, but it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Yeah, it doesn't matter with ARMS. I didn't even know anything about it.
Again, I think it's cool that they pick someone who wasn't, the cover box art character, it'd be like someone going, it'd be like instead of Ryu, they picked Chun-Li for Smash Brothers.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sure. What are you doing?
Apparently,
I mean,
there's lore to ARMS apparently.
Getting super hype over ARMS. Like, again, it's like, oh, okay, cool. They should have been there already. Like, oh, all right, awesome.
Yeah, it does feel kind of like making up for lost time or
lost time. Yeah, it's like there's nothing that I would be super excited about with that character, but it's nice that they're in there. Sure, whatever. When's the new DLC character? How about that?
Well, I will say I think this direct today did a good job of selling me on it, like, or legitimizing this character. Like, hey, this is what they do. This is how they work. And I'm like, what they think. They did a good job of making me, excited to play the character next week. Yeah. With the moveset and all this stuff. So I'm like, I mean, I'm 100% honest. I'm a Nintendo guy, but like, I wasn't, when they said it was an ARMS character, I was like, okay.
Cool. Yeah, like, cool. Awesome. To be honest, I'm more excited about Hayachi. The fact that they acknowledge Tekken is blowing my mind.
Well, that costume was in the Wii U one, Smash 4. But like, it was one of the weird things that never made it into Ultimate. Like,
so they've already had a Hayachi costume for the Wii?
Yeah. They
did. Okay, never mind then. Shit. So what's taking them so long to add a Tekken character?
That's what everyone's kind of scratching their head about. Like,
what is going on?
What was the deal? Okay, like, we get some, because there were other third-party costumes that didn't make it over, right? Like the Chocobo from Final Fantasy. But like, they slowly added them back, like the Virtua Fighter characters like got slowly added back into Smash Ultimate. And some people were like, okay, well, so did they run out of a licensing deal or something? Like, Namco's making the game. Like, Heihachi being absent from the costume was always weird to me because I'm like, you guys are making it. Why would you not have Heihachi there from the start?
Yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird. And they're promoting it again in this new one, and it's like, okay, well, how about the actual character? It's cute. It's cute. You got a me. It's great. But
do you wait, here's the thing, do you really want Heihachi to be the rep?
No, not Heihachi. Just give us a Tekken character, not specifically Heihachi. Because why? He was already in All Stars. Why would you have a character in All Stars that would be in here? Unless it's, Dante or, Kratos or, something like that, sure, those characters can make it over. I would be ecstatic for that. But Heihachi, maybe because, the voice actor passed away and they're trying to show respect and stuff like that. And I would agree with that. But I don't think Heihachi, even though he's the face most of the time when it comes to Tekken, I don't think he's the most popular character from Tekken.
Yeah, it's so weird how he did become the face of Tekken.
Yeah, he became the face of Tekken. He automatically became it. I still have a hat of him with the little teardrop.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, they really want to push this character, but everybody knows that it's either Kazuya or Jin who are kind of like the poster child.
That's kind of the thing. It's like he's the poster child for actually he's a very old man, so poster old man for Tekken. Right. And it seems like people are okay with Heihachi in Tekken, but he's like no one's favorite. I mean, I'm sure he's no one's favorite. I'm sure he's some people's favorite. But
like he's a cool, interesting character who's overpowered as far as story is concerned, but he's not. I guess he's not appealing enough to be a crowd favorite, and I think the other characters can kind of push that narrative of being the new it guy, but again. Harada might just like him more. Who knows?
I think again that's kind of delving into like, well, the producer just personally really likes this character.
Likes that character, and maybe he liked the voice actor more too. So I mean, it might be just a personal thing with him and a relationship with the voice actor. But the bottom line is that where's my Tekken character? Give me my Tekken. Give me my Tekken character. It's
okay. So who would who would you pick if you were gonna get a Tekken rep?
Tekken rep would definitely have to be from broad scope of things. So we're gonna say globally, people are gonna say Jin or Kazuya. Those are like the two guaranteed matches. Me personally, I would say Eddie. I would say Christy. I think those are very popular characters within the realm of everybody. I mean, I'm gonna go with personal characters. I would say Marduk. I mean, shit. You have a lot of
King would make a lot of King would be kind of cool just because he's
King. My god, King,
visually distinct.
Mokujin, those are another one. Panda, throw Panda in there. I mean, there's a lot of characters that would make a lot. I mean,
we had
throw him a bone. Put in what was it, June or Asuka? Give him God, what was his name? What was the kangaroo? Roger. Put Roger in there. Who cares? Just do it. Like, it would be funny if they did add Mokujin, and Mokujin would just be every character.
Right, he'd have all the
different amazing. That would be amazing.
Although, we were bringing this up, and I'm like, someone had a good point. It would probably be Yoshimitsu, because he's in Soul Calibur and Tekken.
Wow,
and he always looks really distinct. He stands out.
Yoshi would probably be the first
I could see that for sure.
Because it kind of covers two franchises of Namco.
He's everywhere at this point. Yoshi is everywhere. So if anything, Yoshi would be the character to make it in there. And he's just awkward enough to on that roster and just fit.
Just weird and goofy enough to work.
Weird and goofy, and I just put him in there. Bob, oh man, Fat Bob, that'd be great. Weird stuff, man. Like, dude, there's so many characters on Tekken roster. Just why not put them in there? Just go.
Yeah, that roster at this point even for 7 alone is just like, jeez.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and they're still missing characters. Let's just put it that way. They're still missing characters. So sure, why not?
I'm kind of curious. Without the Tekken talk, sorry to bring it back to maybe Min Min a little bit. Simmons, you touched a little bit about the mechanical breakdown of her, because Sakurai does a really good job of doing deep dives into how these characters work
by himself.
Yeah, like playing 2 characters with 2 controllers. I mean, flexing a little bit there, showing his fighting game prowess. He flexes in every one of these, man. He absolutely does.
He's been doing that since Brawl, if you remember. We were at GDC and he was going on there talking about Pit from Kid Icarus, and he was just taking 2 GameCube controllers, just like a DJ, like spinning them like that.
So I'm curious, a ranged character with independent control of both arms, basically being able to punch one way and the other way simultaneously, being able to bend their arms, having aerial smashes instead of just tilts. They actually can do smash moves in the air. I'm wondering how you feel about what you saw mechanically. Was it diverse enough for you? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem like you two are like as familiar
I
with
was
arms, but like, did it really
Well,
capture
no,
the sense of like
I
maybe
think
playing
it.
an
I
arms
think it
character?
did. I think it did because we played arms, and we did the whole thing where like you're constantly like doing this.
Yeah.
I actually thought it was a very clever way of implementing the left hand right hand aspect. Like he really did seem to care about the of sort of taking the mechanics of arms and making it work in Smash. And I thought that was actually really cool. The other thing I thought was actually interesting, but also kind of good, is that so the characters kind of a projectile characters. Their fists are projectiles because you could land in between their body and their arms, and there's no hitbox. Like the coil part, that's just invisible or invincible, if you will. It doesn't have any effect. Like if you touch their coil part, it doesn't mean anything. So the fist is basically a projectile that goes out there, and you can hop over it and get in between, and hit the main character. So they're basically, in a sense, throwing out a lot of fireballs. That's kind of what it boils down to a little bit in a way for me. So that's kind of cool. It also helps the fact because like if say the coils on their arms were hurt boxes, that would make the character like impossible to deal with because they would just have so much real estate of their arm and body and fist. So I'm glad that the fists are kind of treated as projectiles in a way, but actually was kind of I expected that one. I thought it was going to be neutral B, but it was down B to change the right hand into different gloves. So I figured that was going to happen, but what I didn't expect was that neutral B was just going to be a basically a secondary attack.
Yeah.
Like a secondary mash attack. So yeah, you can go like A B A B A B, and you can even do A right left B, just and kind of like throw your fists out both ways. Watching a bunch of Injustice over the years has kind of made me fear zoning characters.
But I mean, Smash already had zoning characters.
It does.
Yeah, it already has them, so I wouldn't be too worried about it. It's just the fact that this particular zoning character has a unique way of doing it. So it shouldn't be too what's the word? I don't think it should be too intimidating. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
I didn't read too much into it, just because of the fact that I saw the preview. It was like 35 minutes. I was like, nope, TLDR. I'm not about to watch 35 minutes of Sakurai talk about a character. I'll play the character and then I'll decide if I like him or not. That's literally how it goes. So, but the character just looks fun just from what I'm looking at. But another zoning character, sure, why not? As long as they're balanced.
Yeah. Well, it's weird how he presented her right away as like she's basically a counter to heavy characters, and then she's going to do really poorly against lightweight and fast characters or aerial characters. So he basically was flat out saying at the beginning, like, I made this character to counter this other type of character, but they will do poorly against this type of character. So it's kind of like, I mean, he's not like slamming the character or showing weakness to the character he's introducing. It's more just kind of like interesting that he's breaking down his character's fighting game mechanics right from the start.
Yeah.
Which, okay, that's interesting. That's one way to go about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not too worried about it because, like, although I don't know if you remember, like, when every time they would introduce a new Injustice 2 character, it would be like, this character is really great at long range. We've got like, they have these mid to long range combos, these projectiles.
And you're like, uh-oh.
I'm like, every character that gets added and introduced to Injustice 2 is
really
like
great at mid to long range.
They have a really good like ability to keep their opponent at bay from mid to long range.
It's like what Max said. There's literally somebody at NetherRealm that has a hard-on for long range combat, that has a hard-on for zoning combat, and you're like,
I didn't even play the game that much to know. I'm just like, every video I see, they talk about the characters mid to long range. Yeah, characters
long range. No, I played the game extensively. Trust me, everything is damn near a long range. And it's funny because I mostly played the rushdown characters like Supergirl and Robin, and they had such a hard time against the rest of the roster. And when Supergirl was considered really good because her rushdown was actually pretty decent, they nerfed her. So it's like it makes sense. So whatever.
That's actually an interesting point too. The nerfing, because they're still doing some balance changes with Smash Brothers. Like they still do tweaks and balances.
I haven't even noticed. I mean, are people really complaining about certain characters?
I mean, they do. I mean, in sort of the over, like, I think the Greater Smash community, like, obviously, it's a big deal for them in some ways. But like, I don't think anything was as great as like when Smash Ultimate came out, Cloud and Bayonetta got nerfed to the ground.
Yeah.
Because they were the last two characters to be put in Smash 4, and like they basically released them hot, and they were way too good.
Yeah.
Like way too good. And then that was the end of development. So they just like, here you go, here's Bayonetta, have a nice day. And then everyone's like, she's broken. Like, yeah, whatever, we're done.
What are you gonna do? I think most developers, when it comes to fighting games, they tend to do that. They tend to just put out a character, see what the people say, and then adjust accordingly to what the people. Because if they put out a character and it turns out the character is balanced or terrible, they'll just leave the character as is. And be like, okay, that's fine, we did our job. But the character is so overpowered that everyone complains about them, then we're like, oh, we need to do something. It's almost like they had no idea what they were doing with the characters. They just drop them in and then see what the public decides. They use the general public as beta testers to see what characters bust and what's not.
I don't think that's necessarily
so. We got a new challenger. Here we got Kenny has joined us.
Hey,
how's it going, man?
What's up? It's going well.
We're just in the midst of talking about Min being added to Smash Brothers here.
Yeah, no, I was listening.
Yeah,
and it's like going on what Steve said. I think for DLC, it always seems to happen. Like every DLC comes out and it's really broken. It happens a lot in MK with like Alien and a lot of characters that just come out, and it's like literally me and Max were playing Alien, and it was almost still broken. And it's just like it made me wonder, like, why are like they thought this was okay? They're like, yeah, you know, this move is plus, this move is good, and then it's like. It's pretty great. I'm like, they thought this was fine, and it seems to happen with DLC. And I don't know. I'm pretty sure maybe like Steve's right. It's like, yeah, you know what? Just ship it to see what happens.
Yeah, like the perfect example of that is Scorpion in Injustice 1. A lot of people probably don't remember it, but Scorpion in Injustice 1 was insane. His teleport was crazy fast, and he had priority on almost all of his moves, and he would basically rush down an opponent without them even knowing what was going on. Everybody and their mama was using that character and crushing everybody else who was in that game. By the time the character got nerfed, everybody dropped him and they moved on to other characters. It was the funniest thing. It was almost as if NetherRealm had put the character in there, didn't care what he did, just as long as he's in there, and then decided, oh, okay, now he's busted, let's fix him. So there's two ways a company would probably go about this. Either they didn't care how the character was going to be put in there, or they did this on purpose so that more people would play the new character, and then once people complain about it, then they would nerf them. Because it could be a strategy to promote said character so that when everybody plays them, more people would want to buy them.
For sure. That's a strategy that goes beyond even fighting games, man. Like every single game, like online game, they always make the new characters a little OP because they want people to play them. They need people to play them so they can get the feedback so they can start balancing them too. So, yeah.
But it's not about the feedback. It's about, oh, we're getting more people to play this character because they're busted. Let's make more money off of that. And I think it might be just a money thing as well. So it could be either or. It could just be that they don't care or that they're actually doing it by design.
Yeah. I gotta say though, for Min looking at this, I didn't think anything was like overtly busted with this character. Like again, they talked about her weaknesses. Like she can get bopped from the air pretty easily. If someone's
like Little Mac.
Yeah, and if someone's up close, they're going to have a really hard time dealing with stuff up close. So, yeah, I looked at what was happening with this character, and I thought, you know what, this is okay. Like she doesn't seem super broken, but you don't really know that because all we got was what Sakurai played.
Yeah, exactly. And you like any character that comes out, you don't know they're broken. I mean, I saw what was his name? Leroy Smith in Tekken. I didn't think he was broken when he first was introduced. He was like, "Oh, shoot, he's got these really cool moves and stuff like that." And then they actually delved into the character and they showed his weaknesses. I'm like, okay, he might be okay. And then as soon as he gets released, everybody lost their mind. They're like, "How is this possible? Oh my God, he can do everything!" And people were just going crazy.
It was very loud when he came out. Like everyone was just like, "This is the most broken character.
This is the worst.
He doesn't have weaknesses. He don't miss or whatever that means."
Yeah. And what made it worse is the fact that the tournament hit and there was literally like 6 or 7 Leroys that were in the top 10. And there's like only like 4 people. I was like Jesus,
the Bayonetta finals, man.
Yeah. The finals
try.
are like, oh my
Oh,
God.
gosh.
Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So yeah, this is obviously a strategy that they do. Granted that we have seen characters that have been released and they are terrible. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Injustice 2, when they released, were terrible. They
really?
Really good characters. So it does have a balance of, okay,
Yeah, because they didn't
you
have
gotta play Russian
projectiles.
roulette on which character is going to be broken when they get released. And you just hope that the character that you really like is balanced enough that you can play him without people complaining that you're actual trash and the only reason you won is because you used my character. Like, it happens. So,
yeah, because like in Smash Brothers, there was like Terry got released, but I don't think he was winning any tournaments. Like where it was like, okay,
he was well
8 out of 10 top 10s are going to be Terry's. Like it wasn't anything like that. Same with Banjo. He released, and me and Gerard were very, very, very excited. But it's like he wasn't like the best character or any ever. He was very kind of average. But it's like we don't care. We just wanted our character in this game.
Just throw him in there, have fun.
Yeah, and what else? Like Fakuram was pretty broken. Like there were some things about him that were broken. Like he had some broken hurt boxes and stuff like that. But I don't know. Like we have to go over like the history of DLC and fighting games to see like, hey, were they extremely broken? Like Street Fighter.
I'll tell you one thing. They did
pretty fair with the DLC.
My boy Lobo got done dirty.
Oh yeah.
Lobo. He actually got buffed later on.
Yeah.
But by that time, people stopped playing the game.
Yeah.
But no, Lobo was horrific when he first jumped in. So again, another example of them doing, okay, broken character, balanced character, broken character, balanced character. They seem to divide them up. I can tell you right now, broken character. Well, so broken character, Batgirl, balanced character, which is DLC. God, what's her name? The Magic Girl. What's her name?
Zatanna.
Yeah, Zatanna. Then you go unbroken, well balanced Lobo. Then you got Scorpion. So they just went back and forth with each one.
Even Martian Manhunter was pretty kind of.
Oh no, Martian Manhunter was busted. So there you go. So then you just keep going. Like each one is like, okay, balance broken, balance broken.
No, but what about Street Fighter, or was it just another one?
Street Fighter, I think Street Fighter has done a very, very, very good job of balancing their characters before they come out as DLC. Granted, when Abigail came out, they didn't give a damn.
Oh my God, yes, Abigail.
Knock yourself out. Abigail, just go and do whatever you want. You have you're plus on all of your moves. Who cares? Shut up. And you're ugly. And then I think they actually buffed him when people complained about him. Like he actually got buffed like this season after, and I'm like
out of spite.
Got like a couple of nerfs and then just like more buffs.
And then more buffs, and I'm like, what is happening? But that's just Abigail. All the other characters in the roster, Seth.
I'll be honest. Like every time a Street Fighter V got DLC, it was always it never seemed to me like when Leroy came out, and it was just like broken.
Yeah.
The only character I think, and I don't know if it's because of the way the character looked, or if the character was actually really good. Or the only one who seemed to be pretty decent was Minot.
I've seen. She was
like,
balanced,
okay, she was, because I saw some dirty stuff, like almost like zero to kill combos.
Away when you knock her down. If you get her down, she has no wake ups, so she gets bullied very, very easily. So so that's how they balanced her. Same thing with Seth. Seth is insanely overpowered. He has a ton of stuff, but his health is so bad that you hit him a couple times and he's dead. So Gil, Minot, and all these other characters
and
that
the president.
Pretty good job. So I'll give it up to Capcom. I'll give it up to Street Fighter. They did a great job of balancing the characters. Let's hope that this happens with Smash. Let's hope this happens.
Yeah, because I think with Smash it's been like Joker came. Well, there's Piranha Plant, and he didn't seem. He definitely wasn't. Piranha Plant wasn't busted or nothing. He just seemed like he was good, decent.
Yeah.
Joker came out and he was pretty good.
Good.
Like people
Yeah.
had some pretty good stuff with Joker early on, so he kind of came in pretty hot and good.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Hero. Again,
Wasn't Hero banned or something because of one of his?
because
oh
RNG.
yeah. The RNG
stuff,
aspect
yeah.
pretty much killed it competitively. I remember that. Banjo was
maybe characters like Bayonetta was just the exception. Maybe they actually messed up and didn't realize what she was capable of.
Well, Bayonetta and Cloud was really good too.
Cloud, I guess, yeah.
Like they both, because they came out within like 2 months of each other, and they were both like 2 or 3 months, and they were both like the last 2 characters, and they were both super good.
Yeah, I don't mind a character being broken, you know, when they first come out as DLC, as long as the company acknowledges it and they fix it within like, you know.
Yeah, well, that was the problem with Smash 4, is that like that was the end of development.
Yeah.
So they came out, and then that was it, and then goodbye, we're done. We're not because they've gone to move on to Smash Ultimate, like
right. And at that point, they don't care. They're like, yeah, it's broken. What are you gonna do? We're not working.
Yeah, it was also, and it was like there are other factors. It was the Wii U.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they didn't really care about competitive. They're like, yeah, you know, go play Virtual Fighter if you want.
And that was my other point I was going to get to.
Oh yeah, they actually said that, right? They're like, yeah,
like Sakurai was like, he's always been reluctant to accept the competitive scene for Smash Brothers. Like, he acknowledges it and he does some stuff for it. Like, he doesn't ignore it. He definitely does. He sets up modes. He has things set up for competitive players in Smash Brothers. He definitely does acknowledge and throw some bones there. But he always strikes me as someone who's like, I'll give it to them in some aspect, but like, this is just, it's not what he wants. That is not his vision for Smash.
Yeah, because I think he's scared of, and some Japanese developers, I've seen this too, like someone who's played Final Fantasy 14, Naoki Yoshida, also does the same thing in terms of like competitive stuff. They don't want to give endorsements of certain things because then it seems like that is now the official way to take the game, like how you treat it.
Cool.
So if like they want Smash to be this broad game that is for like a lot of people, not just the competitive scene. And once they go down that path, I think they're worried that it might be that is what the community adopts, and that's what it has to be viewed. And now they have this even stronger friction there because we know the history of Smash in the competitive community and Nintendo. I just don't think they want to push that image that direction any further, as much as they're willing to acknowledge it now, as I think as far as Sakurai and Nintendo are going to go with the series ever. And I think I understand some of the frustrations that the fighting game community has with Smash, but at the same time, I think if someone comes up with an elegant solution to how they can keep both, then
100% behind that. You made a game that is for fun. Why are the people who are taking your game that is for fun taking it that serious? Like, no, we want our games to be fun. We want it to make it for fun. If you want to play competitively, you can, but that's not our intention for it. Don't try to force your competitive nature onto our game. We made it for people to have fun. It is a kid's game. Like, stop trying to make it
it's
a
for
professional fighting game.
It's
Chill
for
out.
good,
like,
good boys and good girls.
Yeah, it's made for good boys and good girls. Stop trying to force it. Let the producer doing it. And if you want balancing and all this stuff, it's like, bro, you're not getting the point of the game. I'm 100% behind that. I don't think the Smashing community.
Yeah, here's the other thing
on what Sakurai has envisioned for that game at all. Let the man make what he wants, and if you want to enjoy what he's made, you enjoy it for what it is. Stop trying to make it competitive because it's not meant for that. That's the bottom line.
But on the other hand, I think the Smash community has also proven another thing. They don't need Nintendo to endorse their competitive scene. They made their competitive scene on their own. They built up their competitive empire with no support or help from Nintendo in the background. Only recently has it seemed like Nintendo's acknowledged, stuff like tournaments and stuff recently.
Yeah.
And that's because of the nature of streaming and social media and like esports and all that. And Nintendo obviously, like, they may not want Smash for this, but they also know that there's definitely a money to be made. There's PR to be done. There is some upside. They're basically dipping their pinky into the esports pie just a little bit. With Smash Ultimate, not a lot, just a little bit.
They're dipping it just a little bit. A little taste.
It's funny because
we'll see what's going on over here.
Because if it was an American company, they would be all over it, because all these American companies now want to make the next esport. They want to make the next Overwatch. They want to make the next, CSGO or whatever. They're foaming at the mouth, and Japan's just like, I don't know. This is kind of weird. We just made this game.
Well,
and,
Capcom and Namco are all in on esports, but Nintendo is. I think that a lot of this also comes from the sort of Nintendo's always very, very wary about anything to do with online or
About to bring this up,
because Nintendo, for better or worse, it's not because Nintendo's kiddie. I think people misread Nintendo as being a kiddie company. It's not about Nintendo being a kiddie company. It's control. Nintendo is all about control. And when they can't control the narrative, they can't control what someone's going to say at a tournament or do. Someone like wins a tournament they host. And what if he says something on stage that's maybe a little controversial or something? Nintendo hates that.
I would say the same thing about online. They reluctant to put any kind of effort into their online based community because they can't control what people say to each other. And of course, they don't want to be kiddie or anything like that, or they don't consider themselves to be kiddie, but you have a lot of impressionable kids there that are listening to these grown adults be like, "You little girl," and then they go off on these stupid kids because they're angry. And Nintendo is trying their best to avoid that, but you can't avoid that online.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be a part of that. And I understand.
They're definitely weary of all that stuff too. But just going with online stuff in general, they're really bad with online playing, period. Like their netcode and stuff. Like that's why Smash Brothers isn't going to be in any tournaments in the current situation, because the netcode is a joke. It's like it'd get laughed out of there.
Well, here's the thing. I think they're doing that on purpose. They know they can fix their netcode easily. But I think they would rather have less people online and just have people play their game. I think they don't want people playing online because of the simple fact that they don't like the interaction. Like Simmons said, it's control. They can't control the narrative. So how do you make less people go online? By making it crap.
I don't know if I don't.
You think it's that deep?
But at the same time, I don't know if you guys can confirm this. Is the netcode pretty decent in Japan? Is it like, because again, their structure is totally different from ours.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of factors because they have better internet, and it's a small country, and things are more closely knit. Most people live in a major metropolitan area. Like they're just by proxy much closer to each other with better
so they don't
speed,
they particularly don't have any issues with latency and lag.
Right.
But then that's where they just don't oh well, we got fine internet over here. I'm pretty sure America will be fine.
I have to say though, because I did this last night, hours ago. This is just hours ago, and it happens every single time, once a week if I do it right. I'll go into the shared content, like the user created stages, and it really seems like whoever curates this stuff has given up. Because I go in and there is just, how to say this very gently. There's a lot of lewd stuff. You go in there and you say what's in even if you just do by recommended or by popularity. If you search user created stages by popularity, it's filled to the brim with stuff that is not Nintendo would not be okay with, but it just sits there and it's there all the time, constantly. I don't know how often it gets refreshed, but part of me feels like when it came out, Nintendo was pretty good. Something bad, it would be taken down probably within an hour or two or whatever. Now it's been kind of it feels like are all the mods asleep? It's just
they probably didn't put any effort
on that war.
They probably didn't put any effort into the resources to monetize that stuff, so they just probably didn't even care.
Yeah,
monetize, but they're trying to keep all the lewd stuff out of there, and
just modding it, just nasty stuff. I reported a player yesterday for a stage they made, and it was on the most popular search. So I think it's more of it feels more like a backing up, if you will, of basically what we're saying, where it's it doesn't seem like they care about the online all that much, because they're not even really curating the user created content right now. And obviously nothing's really gotten any better with the general net code of it. And it's actually a constant sort of cry that I hear from everyone that in my chat when I stream it and stuff is everyone always kind of says like, it's nice that we get these new characters, but I really wish they would fix the online. Imagine if because now it's really bad because everyone has to be stay at home and social distance, and so we have to play online. We're kind of forced into this area where we've got to play online because we can't be together. We can't go over to our friend's house. We really shouldn't, and the online is just what it is with Smash Brothers. It's never been good. It's been kind of bad from the start. It's gotten a little better since Brawl, sure, but it's just like sort of this problem, and it's weird that we're going to add new stuff to the Spirit board, right? We're going to add all these new modes, and we're going to add all these rematch options and new ways to like try all these little tricks to defeat a Spirit in new ways. Why can't there be a segment about like we've really decided to go in and the netcode and really solidify the connection problems we've been having? Why can't that be a thing? Like why are we like I think it's cool. I like what they're adding with the Spirit board, don't get me wrong. But it does feel a little bit like you have this known issue. It's always been an issue. It's never not been an issue. Why is this just never addressed?
Yeah, it goes beyond. I mean, it goes even beyond Smash. I mean, we had a Patron question from Morgan Mahala who specifically asked about this because of COVID-19 and the fact you cannot play in person anymore. So the couch co-op stuff like that is gone. This would be the time you think that like a light a fire on Nintendo's ass to like maybe get your netcode in order for a lot of your games, improve your online experience, especially when you're charging for it. It's not free. It's a paid service. You got to pay to play. So I do think it is something people should be holding Nintendo to a higher standard and putting a little bit more pressure on them to maybe definitely improve this.
Well, how much is it for the online service right now?
$20 a year.
$20 a year.
Yeah, and then like
so if you're paying $20 a year for $5 internet, then the price should be according to what their internet is like.
$3.99 a month,
$3.99 a month is exactly what should be their internet because that's what it's worth. I agree. Make it what it's worth, and then we won't complain. You get what
because like I mean, and you got like
on
PC gaming, you have Steam and whatever, and
they're all free.
You don't pay
and
for
it's
this.
Better netcode than anything that Nintendo's brought up.
Right.
So.
Like I mean, that's kind of going on the developer a little bit here, but
yeah, true. But
I mean, this
better.
This is a first party game.
Yeah.
Made by Namco, which I mean, we could go into that because none of Namco's games have the best netcode when it comes to fighting games in general online. They're not the worst, but
I would say that they're not the worst. I wouldn't complain about them. They're not the worst. They're not the best, but they're still playable. So, and that's what I look for.
Well, like Tekken's pretty decent, and Soul Calibur is decent. I wouldn't say they're great.
It's
Soul
just got
Calibur's
stipulations.
I would say Soul Calibur's worse than Tekken. I think Tekken got better netcode than Soul. Just based on what I've done on both of them, it feels like Tekken got the lion's share of attention, which rightfully so because it sold the best. But I mean, Smash Brothers
probably a bigger budget too.
Right? Yeah, bigger budget. But here, Smash Brothers has outsold both of those games combined. Like
we're money they make on this game. Yeah,
they're over 18 million, closing on 19. They're probably at 19 or 20 million copies sold. Like it's the best-selling fighting game of all time ever, whatever. And it's like.
It sucks because a lot of people expect, hey, you're making a lot of money off this game. What are you doing with the money? Are you snorting, like you snorting up your nose or something? Like you have the ability, you have the resources, and you have the money to make better netcode. What are you doing with the money that we need?
Well, then here we go. Here's a Japanese producer. We've made the money. Why do we need this netcode? Look how much money we made.
Yeah, we made the money already. We're good.
Well, why?
Like, why?
Like, if you made like billions of dollars selling like food that isn't that good.
Yeah, right.
Look at it. The food. What do we need to make the food taste better?
The food speaks for itself. We've made all that money. That means people like our stuff.
Like, and especially when it comes to producers that are about the dollar sign. But like, why?
But that also gets me a little annoyed too when Sakurai's talked about this, where he's just like, we don't have the development staff or resources to do this or that. Like he'll throw that aside, like we don't have the time or we don't have the money or we don't have the people to get all this stuff in the game. And I'm like, bro,
you do like it's
like to rounding it up, 20 million.
Yeah.
20 million copies.
Yeah.
At full price.
At full price. This game's never been on sale. This is a $60 game.
DLC
Yeah.
price. Yeah, all the
And
DLC, all those
DLC.
me costumes costing, they make a lot off of that.
Like, yeah, like
Hey,
whatever.
man, you know what?
You made so
I-
much money. Like,
I legitimately put it on the consumer. I say it's a consumer's fault 100%. Why are you supporting a game that doesn't care?
I
Why are you
mean,
supporting a company that doesn't
I love the game though. I think the
Yeah.
game's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, that
But-
goes to like on Max's BS meter. How
Yeah,
much
then-
of the BS are you willing to put to still love the game, right?
Yeah, you can still love the
So
game.
I'm like,
right?
I believe this game has raked in like on raw revenue, over $1 billion just on
Yeah.
those sales alone, not counting DLC sales. So, I mean, that's the thing is they have the money. They obviously have the resources. Namco's not a small company. Obviously, they're doing a lot of stuff. They're making Pokemon Snap, like, so, but it's like, it just feels like it's to me, it's more frustrating as time goes on, and especially now with the situation we're in, where it's just like, this would be the time to put development resources into your netcode and say,
So,
okay, let's make sure the
here's
online is now especially is good.
They, with so much effort and promotion that the community is put into Evil for Nintendo, does Nintendo give a damn about Evil at all?
For
Like,
exposure, they care about the exposure. I
Yeah.
mean, they obviously,
because from
you
what
want good relations with the community and stuff, but at the end of the day, Nintendo's getting something out of it. They're
right,
getting
but from what
exposure and
I
promotion.
gathered, Nintendo doesn't necessarily support Evo in the sense that
Doesn't give
okay, Harada goes to Evo and he like shows himself there and everything like
Yes.
that, and
You're right. Yeah, you're right. I
you know,
think
Ed
that
Boon
you're right.
goes to Evo, he's right there.
Mhm.
Where's Sakurai? Is he not going to Evo? Does he not? Did he go to Evo Japan? Does anybody know?
No, he did not.
He didn't. So again,
Not
is
good.
Nintendo supporting that scene? Like, how much are they support? You say, oh yeah, they love this exposure, but it seems like they don't care. That's my
They do love the exposure, but they only love it so far as how much can we get out of it for as minimal of effort as possible.
exactly.
It goes so far.
Yeah.
Now, when Smash Ultimate was coming out, they brought their was it out? Yeah, it was after. They brought their Comic-Con Smash Brothers booth to Evo. Like
Okay.
They brought it there, and that was kind of like a unique one-time thing because they had Smash Ultimate coming out, and they knew it was good. Again, good exposure. This is pretty cool. But Steve brings up an interesting point because, like, when these other companies like Harada and Ono, whatever, they go to Evo, right? They're there. They're not only presenting on stage, but it's like during the course of Evo, they'll do signings. They'll show up. They'll have little like side events. Hey, play this little side tournament.
Yeah,
maybe
Harada
and they're
joins
promoting
tournaments.
something else,
nobody from Nintendo of America, Nintendo proper, or on this game's development community went to Evo. Like
Yeah.
they sent their no offense, but they sent their NOA goons to just go and set up the booth and run it. And here's a poster on your way out.
Yeah.
But Reggie didn't show up. I mean, even though he had nothing to do with the games, like there was one time Reggie had a video that they showed at Evo and it wasn't even revealing anything. It was just sort of like a acknowledgement video.
Yeah.
Keep going, guys. We love and support you. Fingers crossed, or whatever.
If anything, you would expect them to be in Evo Japan. They don't have an excuse when they don't show up in Evo Japan. You know what I mean?
But
Well,
And
it goes back to what we said though. They don't really like the
Support.
they don't like
I think-
competitive scene for Smash.
I also think it goes back to like the control thing because they do their own events. They do have their own like tournaments. They
had that one
before
during
E3,
E3.
those invitationals, the Smash invitationals,
yeah.
where Reggie is there. They are there. They're promoting and stuff. It's It's very much about the control and perception and projecting that image that they want to see for the game. It's very consumer focused, consumer positive, where building hype for this, go buy it. Everything we were doing is leading to you becoming like sampling this and eventually becoming like a paying customer to this. Whereas, while that's probably part of the objective for like Harada and Ono and everyone else at Evo, they also are there because they love the fighting game scene. That's their passion as well. So there is a difference there. And as we talked about earlier, Sakura made it clear like this is not what the game is pushing for. This is not his personal prerogative. While they have no objection to people taking the game and running with like that, it's the much sport you've seen from them in the official fighting game tournaments is as far as they're probably ever going to go with that stuff.
Yeah.
And I got to go back on what Steve said too. It's the consumer. Like, people care more about having Waluigi in Smash than they're talking about having good internet. You'll see more people.
That is an unfortunate reality. That is true. It's true, and it shouldn't be true, but it's true.
You know, we want Waluigi. We want this character. Well, I don't see people really campaigning for, instead of one DLC character, give us good netcode.
Yeah, I mean,
good netcode should be a character. How about that?
Right. Like, if we were to make a tier list,
people demand it.
Yeah, if we're going to make a tier list of what I get asked about constantly in Smash Brothers, it's who do you predict will be the next characters? Who do you want to be the next characters? What's your dream character? It was Banjo. Like, it was like, it's always that. And then later on, and not nearly as much, but it does get brought up, was like, you know, I wish this had good internet. When are they going to fix the internet? But Kenny's right. Like, it always, the priority is always, who do you want in Smash? Who do you think will be the next Smash character? Who's it going to be? Like, it's always just, what's the next character? What's the next character? What's the next character? They care more about, and at the end of the day, that is, it definitely leads to more excitement, because if Nintendo showed up and said, we're going to have a Smash Brothers Direct, and everyone got all excited, and all Nintendo said is, we're fixing online. Good night.
Well,
like, that doesn't really,
people disappointed with that.
That doesn't generate nearly as much hype as, say, like when something like Joker shows up at the Game Awards, and you're like, whoa, what? Like, so
going on that, like, new characters and stuff. We talked a lot about online. I want to change gears real quick about like characters. I got a question from one of our patrons, from Carl. So we had Min added today, but and before we start recording, Steve and I kind of talked about this a little bit too. So we're gonna get back into this about representation. So Carl asked, assuming that the 5 yet to be revealed fighters in Fighter Pass 2 are the final entrants in Smash Brothers, do you think the roster will finally get some minority representation at some point? Like, today they missed with Twintel.
Yes.
We got Min, so we did get another female character at least, but you know, we did not get a minority character in there. So what would you what do you have to say to that?
I think that also depends.
It's rough. Look at the roster now. The only 2 are 2 variations of the Squid Kids.
The variation. It's a variation.
Well,
okay,
I mean, Ganon is a mythological.
How about this? What is
he is mythological, right? So that's I did that on purpose, because I wanted to know. I kind of wanted to bring that aspect up of it.
Yeah.
Well, so are the squids.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Is there minority representation in Villager? I don't play him, Kenny.
There is one, where he can. I guess you can get one of the other like the mixed colors or something like that.
Let's do it with the Mii fighters as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
like you have to make them yourself.
Yeah, you have to make them yourself.
I feel that's a cop out.
That's definitely a cop out.
It is absolutely a cop out.
Yeah. Okay.
But man, it's rough.
Here's my thing. I'm gonna say this once and be done with it. I don't give a flying rat's ass about representation in any game. If you have a company that does not want a particular group in the game, that is the company's prerogative, and I just won't support it. I don't need to be coddled so that I can feel that I'm accepted within your particular game. There's something that I think I remember, it was like Charlemagne that said, go to where you're celebrated, not tolerated. I don't think if Nintendo or if Sakurai or anybody that's working on Smash, if they technically do not care for putting minority characters in a game, then me as a minority should not care about supporting your game. why not focus on other games that do support that on their own merit and have those games come up to be the most popular it thing? The reason why we are so focused on Smash is because it's the new, or it's not the new it thing, but it is the it thing. They've earned that because they have a very good system. They have a huge diverse roster of characters, as in diverse characters, as in from like all these other franchises. But when it comes to representation of minority characters, it's obvious that they do not care. Since they do not care, I do not care so much about their game. It's just that simple. I'm not worried about not having those characters in there, only for the simple fact that it's never been something that I felt was important enough for them to consider. So I should just focus on other games that do support that. Why should I be so upset that I need to have representation in said thing that doesn't want me there? It's obvious that they don't. But who knows? Maybe they forgot about representation. Who knows?
You know what?
It's something that I've gone over before, because before Michael had actually mentioned it, I didn't realize that there weren't that many diverse characters in the game. I didn't realize that there wasn't that many in there. And I think that's something that's kind of just indoctrinated into the brain, because it reminded me of In Living Color that pointed out that, wait, there's no black people in the Flintstones? You thought there's no black people in the past?
Oh
and
my gosh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
or in the Jetsons in the future.
And then they said the Jetsons. You tell me there's no black people in the future? Both cartoons I've watched almost every episode for the entirety of the series. I've never really realized that there isn't a single black person in either of those cartoons until it was mentioned. And then I realized, well, it's obvious that Hanna-Barbera could care less. They just don't want your, people like you, quote unquote, in their show. So why was I supporting it? It was the fact that you just got used to it. I got used to the fact that there were just no diverse characters in Smash. It's not the fact that I should be upset about them for it or I should hate them for it. It's just the fact that that's just what they want. And if that's what they want, then maybe I shouldn't be supporting it. If that's what I want, I should be more supportive of games that do have that roster. And maybe they might be just as good as Smash. The only reason why it's becoming an issue now is because they're the it thing right now. Maybe something else might come up, a little later. That's just my personal way of taking it.
I think the problem here is not necessarily Nintendo. I think it's more of a damnation of the whole game industry, because Smash Brothers is celebrating, all the years, 30 plus years of video games, and most of these are the main characters, right? Min Min is an outlier where it's not the main character, no matter what they say. But you look at this and you say, okay, look at this roster. It's it doesn't seem very diverse, and I'm like, yeah. That's kind of been, it's not really, it's definitely in a large part, on Nintendo, but it's also like, yeah, wow, like there have not been many diverse main characters in video games.
Yeah, in general.
Period.
Yeah.
Going across everything, like Snake, Richter, Simon, Mega Man, all Cloud, Bayonetta, like you just go down all these third-party characters, and it's like, they're in the same boat, like, oh yeah. And it was why, I won't say the name of the game, but there was a game that I did support on a Kickstarter, and people, if they know this quote, they'll know the game, but where this game was not picked up for publishing, and they had to go Kickstarter, or not Kickstarter, but whatever, crowdfunding, because someone had said, "Wow, you really want to do a game where your main character is non-white and non-male? Good luck." That just kind of made me mad, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna support this game more, because I absolutely hated the fact that it's a very real thing where people are saying like, "Hey, who are you to tell me?" Like a person who looks like me, what I won't or won't buy. Like you're saying, I wouldn't buy a video game, if it featured, a minority character that was also female. Forget you. I'm buying that game. In fact, I'm going to give it more money now, because I'm so disgusted at the fact that, you're going to deny this game's existence because the marketability of its main character. Boo.
Yeah.
Boo on you, sir. I'm buying this.
There are plenty of games out there that are niche, that are indie, that do have a diverse cast out there. The problem is that most AAA games aren't there yet, and it just takes that one game to make that jump from indie to mainstream to where people like it, and it comes down to the developer. You were saying something, King?
Oh yeah, no, I think they're you're nailed it, because I think AAA studios are a lot like Hollywood. Like Hollywood and AAA studios are very afraid to take the leap. They're I don't know, this demographic, if we do this, what was this? George Lucas was saying he had a very hard time pitching the Tuskegee Airmen movie because
Red Tails,
because it was all primarily an all African-American cast, and he was having trouble. And I think same thing happens with a lot of AAA studios, and it's kind of it is sad. I've looked over the Nintendo roster.
It's the same excuse that they use for the Moses movie that had God, what was his name?
Gods and Kings, I think, right?
Yeah,
or Exodus. No, Exodus.
Yeah, and Gods and Kings is the same thing. Well, why not? Sure. But it's the idea that you will tend to lose money off of it. That's just the bottom line. Is that? And I remember you were saying that too with the cast of God, what was it? Star Wars. Japan won't like this. The
China.
African. Yeah, they just won't like. Or not Japan. I'm sorry, China. China won't like
it.
They're looking at numbers.
They made the poster and they put Finn much smaller in the poster.
Yeah, I think in one of the posters just straight up removed him. They just didn't put him on it.
Well, you could see he's very small and he's kind of in the back.
I've seen both where one they just didn't have him on there at all.
Yeah,
and there was one. So,
again, they're looking at numbers as opposed to diversity, and that could be a factor as well, because when it comes to we're gonna have this indie company that really wants to make things diverse, and you have this AAA company that's we need to make more money. How do we make more money? What's the key point here? Well, you can't have any diverse characters. You want to make money, make them white.
It feels like a low picking fruit or whatever here, but last year, was it, or maybe 2 years ago, when Jedi Fallen Order got its first official announcement and they showed the main character for that game, I was just wow. It was just the whitest dude you've ever seen.
Well, Nathan
in Jedi Fallen Order, and I was
there's a meme. Wow. If you look at video game protagonists, there's 30 or 40, and they're all, what can I say? They're all very similar.
I don't know if it's because I've gotten older or if the issues got brought up more, but it was recently,
it's got brought up more
with that Jedi Fallen Order. It I don't know why, but it just stood out to me. I'm this is the most generic,
boring looking,
boring.
And what's funny? I bet they lost numbers because of that. I bet because the character wasn't unique enough that they actually didn't get as much sales as they would probably like, because it was so generic looking. It's aesthetic.
Maybe, I don't know. It definitely didn't help me. I'm the target audience for something like that game. And I looked at that and I was just kind of oh my God, this is the most boring looking main character I've ever seen.
But you know what? The fact that there's games what is it? There's a fighting game coming out called Corrupt that looks fantastic, and it has a great amount of combos. The characters look cool, and the graphics look dope. And you got the minority as the main cast. You have another one called Black Salt. That's another fighting game that's coming out that as all minority cast, and it's again, these things are gaining notoriety. They're actually starting to gain attention because people are seeing the work that's being put into it. I think instead of fighting for inclusion, I think it's more important to but focus more attention on independence. You don't need them to call it. You don't need them to be okay, fine, we'll do a affirmative action and add one African-American character in there just to keep them to shut the hell up, no, it's obviously didn't want us in there. Let us make games that have more diverse casts and have those games be good at gameplay, because that's what Smash is. It has really good, fun gameplay. That's what made it popular. It had really cool characters. It had characters from all over Nintendo, all over these other companies, and it made it popular. Why not have an independent indie company make a game and have great gameplay, have a diverse character as far as from other companies and from all of the races and everything that comes in between, and make it fun game? if it becomes popular, if it becomes exciting, people enjoy it, that will be the new it thing. And guess what? Other companies will follow because they'll see that thing makes money. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Does it make money?
I'm not sure with Nintendo if it's like they don't want minority representation.
Yeah.
I think I think it kind of goes back to sort of like the sort of isolationist nature of Japan a bit, where they just I think it's more, I don't know, I want to say maybe ignorance in a way, where they just don't think about it.
Let's do it without sugarcoating it. They're being whitewashed. Let's just do that, because it's the same mentality that I had when I'm watching Flintstones and I'm watching Jetsons. I don't notice it because it's so normalized. But to Japan, it's so normalized that they just
well, the thing is, I think Flintstones and Jetsons have less of an excuse because they were made in America. Like, but they didn't have that excuse.
Yeah, but we're talking about the impact to the American public or to the general public.
Yeah,
it's so indoctrinated into your psyche that you just become used to it. And I think that's what happened with Nintendo. Is the fact that it's been so indoctrinated into their psyche that they're just like, yeah, we'll just put more, Caucasian characters in there, and they don't realize that there's no minorities in there at all. They just don't realize it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of like, oops, all oops, all berries, or whatever that meme.
Let's face it. The person that asked Michael that question, you should ask them how many people have been, ranting and raving about not enough minority characters. I'm pretty sure Nintendo hasn't heard the outcry of that.
That's
outcry of Waluigi. They've heard more of that than they've had people complaining about, where's the first character? So
but
there you go.
I might have to leave in just a minute. There's a little family issue going, but I want to say at least one thing before. I think people really want that in Nintendo, because when the new Pokemon trainer came out, people were going absolutely wild. They loved her design. The internet exploded. She was trending. And I'm like, people want it. People want diversity for Nintendo, especially when all those new, like when I think her name is Nessa or something like that. And when she came
Pokemon
out,
trainer.
Yeah, people were going wild, and they were like, "Oh my God, look at her! This is so cool!" And people were celebrating her, and Nintendo could see it. People want it, and especially when Nintendo comes in, because Nintendo has been notoriously for not having that. And it's like, granted, a lot of their characters, and I just looked over the roster, they're all fantasy characters and weird looking characters and so forth like that. But when Pokemon came out, it was very celebrated. Even like when Twintel as well was kind of celebrated. And I think
but I would ask you this, Kenny, do you think they're doing it on purpose, or do you think that they just don't notice it and they're just adding?
I think it's just kind of like Japan, like not knowing too much, about this, and just, I don't know, like, hey, I don't think it's done for malicious reasons. I think it's just like, hey, we're just,
they're just not thinking about it.
They're just not thinking about it, right? Because it goes back to like old times. It goes back to like Japan's never really thought about it when it comes to anime, when it comes to anything like from Japan. They just haven't thought about it. Like, right, one of my favorite animes of all time is Dragon Ball. They've had in the entire lifetime, they've had one character, and it's Oob, and some of the other characters have been rough, and I'm like, oh my God. But then I've been starting to watch JoJo, and JoJo has a diverse cast and all this kind of stuff. And it's
that's amazing. Anime in most general.
Yeah, but it's anime, but it's like from Japan. Like Japan,
they draw
not even a thought.
African characters rough most of the time.
Rough, yeah, and it's never really been a thought in Japan. And
I think it's worth bringing up and holding Nintendo's feet to the fire a little bit, because they're a global company, right? They talk about it all the time. They're a global company. So, and they've been a global company. So I think now is the time, now more than ever. It's definitely one of those, like, you are a global company. Like Kenny brought up, you had the success of the Pokemon trainer Nessa, and you had Twintel. I think now is the time where it's like, you are running out of excuses to not notice this trend. So I don't know. Maybe that'll be a positive coming out of this in the future, of all the stuff going on in the world now. Maybe it will, but like, it's also kind of like Steve said, it's like, you're only doing it because it's brought up.
You kind of have to, exactly. Yeah.
Not because you really wanted it.
Yeah.
out of the goodness of your heart, which is kind of it's like a double-edged sword, a bit in a way. So it's
well, I mean, it wouldn't be a double-edged sword if they just did it. Then we would know that they want to actually do that. I mean, you would see in the roster like that's.
There's another thing too, and you and Kenny have brought it up twice, or not twice. I'm sorry, multiple times, where he's an assist trophy, but it's like, why wasn't Rodan from Bayonetta made playable?
Exactly.
Like he does a lot of the same stuff as Bayonetta. He wouldn't be necessarily an echo, but he'd definitely be similar with some of the same moves. And it's like, why didn't you throw Rodan as playable? I get it, like only one Bayonetta, but it's like that would have been a really good start right there if you threw Rodan in there. Rodan is like one of the coolest
looking characters. Yeah.
Well, he's a cool character, like in Bayonetta, like not just looking. He is really cool. He's the Akuma.
He's the Blade of the series. Like
the Blade, but like he's the hardest boss fight in Bayonetta 1 and 2. You have to earn like $1 billion or whatever it is to fight him, and then he is harder than any of the other characters in the game. He wrecks you. So it's like I'm kind of like, I think Rodan should have been a playable character. Personally, he's really cool looking. He should have been.
Yeah, I think it's just indoctrination. I think their mentality is like they've already been conditioned to do that. Again, it could come down to money and statistics where they're like, oh, well, this character won't sell as much, blah, 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 or whatever. And they're not willing to take the risk. And it could just be that they haven't noticed. It could be either one of the,
we need that video game moment that's the equivalent of like Marvel doing Black Panther, doing Captain Marvel, Wonder Woman, having these like the superhero movies finally having these breakout hits involving, a black lead or a female lead, and it's like we're proving you wrong. There is a market, not like the money.
Yeah, there is a market.
There is a market for this. And we need that AAA video game moment of that.
Yeah,
like where
that's what's
out.
Yeah, and that's what's difficult for companies to understand, because before Black Panther, let's face it, the movie that resurrected Marvel in far as movies are concerned was Blade. It wasn't Iron Man. Blade was the first one to really get them the money to where they could make Iron Man. And there was a market there.
Yeah, it's like the forgotten first step, right?
It's the forgotten.
Yeah, because that led to the X-Men live action film being possible because they saw the reception to Blade.
They saw the reception.
Blade was amazing.
Yeah, and they've been known that there's a market there. It just comes down to if you can make a movie that is mediocre and still make money, because that's what they can do with quote unquote Caucasian actors. They can make a mediocre movie and they still have the star power to carry the movie. Now that's not the case with a lot of them when it comes to, let's say, Ghost in the Shell. They were really upset that Johansson got that lead role, but they said, oh, it's Johansson, she can carry the movie. Well, it turns out she couldn't. So they're still taking that risk, but it's a less of a risk. And I think that's what Hollywood is going for, is that less of a risk. And
it's I don't know. Like I'm not like a market analyst.
Yeah.
But like to me, it's always been like, if the next Naughty Dog game, let's say, had a minority character lead, right, or female minority lead. I know they have Lost Legacy. I know that kind of exists, but that's not like a main game. You know what I mean? I feel it would probably sell just as well, right? Like if Last of Us 3, had a brand new character who was, definitely who was female or minority or whatever, I don't think people would care. I think people would be like, oh, yeah, more Last of Us. Like even and it could be a new IP. As long as the game is good, as long as the game is
this was apparent in Grand Theft Auto. I even had friends like at the arcade. They were like, "Really? Like in San Andreas, like a black lead? Like what? Why is he like on a?" Like they didn't understand, and I'm like, "Yeah,
really?"
Like no, I legit had people like freak out about the fact that San Andreas had like why is he? I don't understand.
I mean, when they saw it, and I saw the game was supposed to be set in the early '90s in basically in California, I'm like, why wouldn't it?
Why wouldn't it be? And that's the exact reason. I was like, well, why wouldn't it be? Like you do understand, like that's the setting.
I'm like, they are going for all of those movies that came out in and around
those
that time and about that time. And I'm like, this is the story to tell. Like I would not want to see what it was. Tommy's the guy's name in GTA 3 or whatever. times. Yeah, I would not want to see. I would not want to see or care about what his life was like during San Andreas or anything like that. It's like I don't like that's
And
there's no story to
they
tell
even
there.
went farther north with GTA 4 with Nico. Like, and he's the most minority character you can come up with, because where are you from, Yugoslavia or something? I don't even know where he was from.
Eastern European.
Yeah. So that was even way more diverse than anything that we've seen in as a main character. So again, it has been proven to work. You can have San Andreas, you can have GTA 4, and those games sold immensely. What I'm looking for is a female lead in GTA 6. That would be great. Have that diversity come up in there.
Yeah. Although, the throw that back with what you said though, if Rockstar, because they've said this isn't the story we wanted to tell. When people how come there was no female lead, and fine, we just didn't have any story we want to tell. I'm like, okay, good. I don't really want you to force yourself to
exactly.
We're just gonna make a female lead in GTA 6 because people 100% are whining about it.
Don't force yourself. If that's not what you want, then don't force it.
Either do it because you want to do it.
Yeah.
But don't do it because you think it's gonna win you social points. That's it's the wrong reason.
I am 100%. It's what is it? I mean, hey, I hate to get into politics here, but it's like the Nancy Pelosi taking a knee, in like at
in the courthouse here or the Senate floor or whatever it was.
And I'm like, you know what that is? That is pandering, not policy. And you don't. We know what you're trying to do. You're trying to appease a certain demographic for your gain. You don't really care, and we know that. And it's the same thing with Rockstar. We know that they did it because they wanted to. It was a part of the story. That's what they were trying to tell. So they put those characters in there. With Smash, maybe there's no story to tell. Maybe that's not what they're going for. So,
I think Smash is in a unique situation because it's more of a celebration of video games, right? It's not telling news stories necessarily. The problem is it holds a mirror up to the video game industry as a whole. And guess what that mirror shows? A lot of white.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely partially Nintendo's fault because again, the roster is mostly Nintendo characters, and Nintendo has not really shown a lot of diversity in their main character roster.
Yeah.
Simple fact is what it is.
Following the narrative. They know where the money is.
So, but all the third parties are in the same boat. They're all sort of guilty of this in a way.
Yeah.
It's a celebration of gaming, and that celebration of gaming is, for worse, just very, very much what we look at in that roster. Very, very white.
Yeah. And that's when I get to the point of indoctrination where people are just so used to it, they don't notice the difference. They're just it's fine.
I noticed it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
A little bit. I was like, this is as the roster grew and it sort of kept growing, and it's just it's starting to look because they kept adding more human characters. It kind of seemed to be a trend, right?
Yeah.
Where after Brawl, it's starting with Snake, all the new characters started going in from there, and especially going into 4 and the Ultimate. It was a lot of them were human. They're all Banjo's the outlier here, Yeah, everyone else has been basically a human. Min Min has coil for arms, whatever. Everyone's very humanistic, right? And what do the it just kind of seems to be the thing where it's well
then here's the question I would ask then. What main character from any game that is a minority would you pick to be in Smash?
I mean, if you were gonna say to me anything?
And you and Michael, anybody that's out there, what main character as you see? I'd
pick Ajna from Indivisible.
There is
that'd be me.
A lack of diverse characters in video games in the whole, and that's why Nintendo, I'm guessing, is why Nintendo doesn't have that, is because they're just not in any game. I don't know, Michael. What character would you pick?
I mean, I would honestly want them to. The thing I want to see the most, honestly, is I want Nintendo to. I want them to make a new game, pretty much. I want them to be at a spot where they've made a new game from the ground up that features a strong minority character in the lead, and put that in there versus them needed to search for someone because I feel like they're gonna like what will happen is they'll go to like indie games. They'll go to indie games because there's the most diversity there. They'll pick someone there. It'll be like champion. It'll be like covered and stuff. And everyone will be like, this is great. They're including a character, which is good. You know, it is good to show representation there. But it goes back to like I think it's a more of a systemic problem where they just haven't, for whatever reason, they just haven't had these characters in their games. They haven't had this representation, and they definitely need to do something about that. They definitely need to be made aware of it. Like you were saying, like it might be ignorance and it might not be aware of it, but like how many times have we seen someone ask Nintendo a question about something like, even like this will be right up your alley, Simmons, like when they asked about why Zelda can't be the main character. And like, and I'm giving like, it's just tone deaf. It's a tone deaf answer, but like they're so stuck in like their lore, their RP, whatever their explanation is in their head. They just haven't been challenged. They have not been challenged. No one has pushed back hard enough against them to say, please, just like consider this. I think that's the thing is you need more people to speak up and do that, which is also why I get your point, Steve, that like I think it is ultimately it will be better for the world if like people don't like try and like fake their way into things and just like be independent, be authentic, and like make your own thing. And then like, you know, because of that empowerment you feel by doing that, I think that's a very important thing to have. But at the same time, I still think there's so much value because of the way the world is right now. That type of thing is going to be changed. It's going to take time to happen. What people can do right now is put in, like my counter would be, put in somebody who, you know, can show people out there, especially like I think younger people are more impressionable because he said, how many of us didn't know like not Simpsons, but Flintstones and Jetsons didn't have a single black character in them? It's like because it's so normalized. Like the more visibility there is out there that there are diverse. The real world has diverse people out there. The more that becomes the new normal. I think that has a lot of value as well.
Yeah, I agree.
I have to throw in because I'm too much of a fanboy, a Monolith Soft. I have to throw in they could put Elma in there, although I don't bring Elma up too much because there's an asterisk when bringing up Elma as far as representation because there's an asterisk reason why I maybe or maybe not might be the best.
I would say Michael is right in the idea of make a completely new game that has a diverse cast because if you really think about it, when you think of Nintendo, is there a single African American, or not even that, just like how many minorities are in?
Steve, that's where I was struggling. I was trying to keep myself this strictly to Nintendo franchise. You asked me,
like game. How many like minority characters are in Nintendo in general? You know what I mean? Like I've never noticed it.
Even like but people always point back to Nintendo and try and champion them, saying like, oh, they had one of the first female leads. They had Samus, who was hidden behind a mask for the entire game, so you didn't know it. It was treated as like a big surprise reveal, like, oh, you couldn't believe that. And then you were rewarded for better performance by sexualizing her, by like having her in a bikini and stuff, and more revealing clothing, the better you did anyway. So you're still, objectified at the end of the day. So, I mean, and, the whole thing's over time, like, better depictions here and there, but then, hit rock bottom with Other M, where character assassination pretty much on that. I'm dependent on men. I need men to like save me and stuff. I can't weak character now. It's like what the hell did you just do here? But yeah, like Steve, I'm struggling the thing about Nintendo, because if I go to third parties and independent games, there are definitely plenty of characters I would want to be in there as well. And I just want to be proud one day to say like, this Nintendo first party character in here like makes me happy about the state of diverse representation in Nintendo games, and we're not there. We're not even near that.
The only thing you could say is Elma from Xenoblade X is like the best.
Really,
you could
one.
do.
So Simmons out of all, because Simmons has the mind of an encyclopedia. If he can only think of one.
It's like I said, Xenoblade Chronicles.
There's an asterisk though, because there's a reason why that's not even really a great pick though.
Wow.
If anyone's beaten the game, you'll understand what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's kind of like your closest thing to a minority lead in a Nintendo game. There's probably been other things like they've done where they've like published or helped distribute, but not necessarily internally developed on their own. I mean, you have some stuff with like Codename Steam, but like generally speaking, like you look at the whole damn cast of every Fire Emblem game.
Totally. It's like So here's the thing.
think about this. You have, this goes back to what I was saying when it comes to, okay, well, are they doing this on purpose, or are they just following a marketing plan? They know that Caucasian characters will probably sell more. So is that what they pandered to the entire time that they had Nintendo? Because let's face it, it is a Japanese company, but yet most of the main characters, Luigi, Mario, Princess, even Samus, they're all Caucasian characters. They're pandering to their American market, but yet it's a Japanese company. Why wouldn't they have nothing but Japanese?
I don't think it was market pandering with Nintendo.
Okay.
Because the thing, the frustration with Nintendo is always how like they kind of don't do anything. They do whatever they want. Yeah. And they don't seem to ever really pay attention to the American market much at all. Like they went on this initiative where like, we're going to make brain training games for old people in Japan, and then we're going to make you sell it, America. Like, yeah. There was no incentive or no outcry in America to be like, I really need a memory training game for my DS. Like that was just something Nintendo decided.
So then it comes down to, why not make Mario Japanese? Why not make Samus Japanese?
Okay, so I can answer this one for Mario anyways. So Mario is a creation of a lost license. They were supposed to make a Popeye game. Okay. But then they lost the Popeye license. The deal fell through. So instead, they converted things, the idea of Bluto, Olive Oil, and Popeye into Donkey Kong, Pauline, and Mario, Jumpman. Yeah. So Mario exists from a sort of, okay, I couldn't make Popeye, but I wanted to make a cartoon. So it's kind of, in a way, it's just sort of recreating a dynamic from super old American cartoons, and that's how Mario kind of like exists from
so then
that.
Ask yourself this: why did they need the license to Popeye, the American market, when they're a Japanese company?
Yeah, that's the thing, because King Pictures or whatever at the time was like maybe looking into, because the arcades had already taken off. Like it's already been around. Yeah. So there was a thing where like, oh, we'll make a deal with this, and they're like, hey, we want you to make this arcade game, and then the deal falls through, and then they're like, well, what do we do? We have to convert all these things, and they were struggling. Like if you go back to the point in time, like Nintendo was actually doing really poorly in the late 70s, where they were like, they had one arcade release called Radar Scope, and it flopped miserably. And they're like, we need to find a way to convert this. And the Popeye deal fell through. What do we do? And Miyamoto comes up with Donkey Kong. So it all kind of flows from there. And he's talked about like he considers Mario characters cartoon characters. He constantly compares them to like Olive Oil and Bluto with like Bowser and Peach. So for him, it's just sort of like, I'm just sort of copying American cartoons. So, which it's funny though that it's Popeye of all things, because my God, if you watch the original Popeyes, you have not seen a more politically incorrect cartoon.
Oh yeah, Popeye.
When you watch the original Popeyes, like, and especially
like the early Popeyes though, like later on they got a little better, but the early
but like the early ones, like the
early ones,
war propaganda ones. Holy cow! Like,
but I mean, so you do know the story behind Mario, which is a pretty good one. But I guess the one behind Samus is just like,
Samus, I thought they were just being clever. I guess.
I guess. They were just trying to play against like expectations of the time.
Yeah. Then why wasn't she Japanese? What market are they trying to appeal to?
I mean, could you really even tell what she was?
I was gonna say, I don't even know if like in the original
those sprites are so fucking.
I could tell she was a blonde chick. That's the only thing.
No, she had green hair, right?
Yeah, she didn't. She had green. Yeah, she had this weird color. Yeah,
she had green hair originally. They were doing some purple bodysuit. It was just like.
It wasn't until later.
Yeah, like I think there was not a lot of thought put into Samus originally. I think it was just, what if I did this at the end? Okay, cool, whatever.
Just throw it in.
Yeah, that's the way video games were made back in the day. It's like,
and then it becomes what it is,
I think it's when you get to probably maybe Super Nintendo or N64 especially, when you get to that point in time, then it's kind of like just, you might want to take a step back and say like, hey, here's Ocarina of Time. Is there the only sort of minority representation are kind of considered bad.
So, if you look at the Gerudo and stuff,
so it's like you've already
not a good look, honestly.
Yeah,
it's not a good look.
But here's the thing, and
this
is a rant, and I know you've heard this from me before, but like I feel like Nintendo could take this not good look, but they could use it to springboard a Zelda game into telling a really compelling, interesting, thoughtful and relevant story in today's world using the setup they've accidentally created, but they won't. Because they just want to tell the same basic simple story over and over, which it kills me inside, because I see where you could take something that's been created and set up with Zelda and tell a very relevant, important, good storyline regarding this subject, and they just won't do it because they're way too afraid of that. And that's the other thing with Nintendo is their fear. They don't, and I've been told this from people who've worked within the company too. It's like they hate controversy.
Yeah.
And all
that's like
forms.
the whole reason about the rumor about why what's it called, Which Mother wasn't localized or something, because they don't know how to handle that one character or something. I'm not too familiar with it.
Like they hate controversy, even if it's minor, even if it's whatever, like no matter how big or small it is, like they absolutely despise controversy. So that's why I think you see a lot of things with Nintendo. They do things not for marketing, I'd say, but more out of fear. They want to do what is going to be the path of least resistance, what is going to cause the least amount of outcry whatsoever. And it's backfiring on them now. Because now you sit there and realize, like, we'll make the most generic, broad thing ever. Like, now it's kind of like, yeah, and that excludes other people because of you going for that mass market. So yeah, like from looking at Nintendo as a whole, it's just kind of like, I think things are done more out of, we don't want to be controversial at all. We'll just, what is the thing that'll make everyone happy? Which I don't know. I feel like they could take a harder stance on things. So, but that's a whole nother subject. Honestly, that's a whole nother friend code.
I want to. We've been talking about this for a while. I want to bring it back to a fighting game related thing, because this is the last kind of like topic I wanted to talk about. And it was brought up by one of our patrons, Reagan. Kind of like the fighting game community in tournaments right now with like COVID-19. I know we're switching gears like hardcore here. But I mean, like they asked about Evo, like Evo becoming this like month-long event over several weekends versus what we've been used to, like a focused weekend of events. So on a personal level, like how has it been dealing with like not having as many tournaments, especially like, the almost every weekend having a fighting game tournament to look forward to check out? And how are you feeling about like everything going online, like what Evo's going to be doing with their format this year?
One thing I'm hoping it, like what happened too, especially with all those bad online games getting kicked out, is that maybe it brings some kind of focus now. But like I said, it's Japan again, and Japan's like, hey, we're making money, why bother? But now it's like, okay, all you bad games, you got to sit down. With the whole COVID thing, I hope it brings a light to these companies. Like, maybe we should focus on internet. It was wild because when I was in Chicago, I was right there as all the last tournament literally got shut down because of COVID. So it's a major bummer, because when you're going out and connecting with the people, it's super cool. I mean, either you get to watch some good stuff, if you're not at the tournament, you get to at least watch some really cool stuff. You get to watch some really cool tournaments, but now you can't. And literally in the Street Fighter tournament, a couple of people just left because the connections were bad. At the Capcom Cup.
Oh yeah, didn't IDOM or something like like straight up quit because of a bad
So and now it's like
he got command grabbed like 5 times in a row apparently.
And he's like, okay, I'm just gone.
He couldn't tech out of it. I don't know. I don't know if Steve saw that matchup. Maybe he would have a better insight on.
No, I didn't see the matchup, so I didn't see why he couldn't tech out of it. But I mean, obviously, when it comes to online versus offline, the online matches in particular games, you cannot react to certain things, so it becomes a completely different game. I said this before. The online community is going to change the aspect of winners and when it comes to these games. Instead of, and I think I like retweeted a meme of it, instead of, Sonic Fox and Taquito are the new champions of this, it's going to be, Hug My Nuck 69 is now the new champion of
yeah.
And the people that never had the money or the resources to fly themselves all the way out to Las Vegas to compete in these tournaments can now actually compete in these tournaments. And you're going to see a completely different change in the quote unquote best players in the world, because they've been practicing all this time against people online. And these tournament players like Sonic Fox and Taquito and all that stuff like that, they've been playing offline most of their lives. When they go online is a completely different aspect. There are things that you just physically cannot react to. And you have to be able to adapt to that. And the people who have been playing online this whole time have already done that. So I'm predicting that a lot of the tournament players or tournament champions that are going to be in the EVO Online roster are going to be a lot different, except for those games that already have great netcode. Killer Instinct, Skullgirls, Fighting Herds, I guess, is another one.
Yeah.
All those games are going to have, the old school champions be the champions, but the other games, I think it's going to be a lot different.
Okay.
And it's gonna change the way that things are. But you know what EVO did that was smart? They changed it to EVO 2020 Online, as opposed to just EVO 2020. So it's like a completely different set of the tournament. So I think that's great. So they're going to have EVO, which is regular EVO, which is going to be in Vegas. But since they can't have it, they'll have EVO Online, and they'll also have EVO Japan, which I still think is going to be a thing. I mean, when does EVO Japan actually is supposed to happen?
Yeah, it's like in
December? Okay, well,
so I mean, they're probably still waiting to make a call on that.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Far at the end of the year.
If they do that, that's fine. But I think this is a great opportunity for those people that want to shine or want to show their skills, and now they have the chance to. But with that being said, how many cheaters are going to be out there? Like, they can't stop that. The people are going to be using modded controllers, maybe lag switching here and there. You got to figure out how do they counter that? How do they figure out how to stop people from doing that? There's gonna be a lot of weird things happening in these tournaments. And like Simmons said, there was a guy that he just couldn't take out of something. That all comes in the factor as well. Things are going to change, and we just got to figure out how to adjust to it, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, and going back to that too, like even Sonic Fox said, some characters are a few tiers up because of online. Like Sub-Zero, he's like, oh yeah, Sub-Zero is much higher tier online because it's much harder to react to his 50-50 online than it is offline. And then you showed legit proof, and I'm like, he's like, oh man, he's not going to be able to block that overhead and low, and he mixed it up like he did the training mode where he mixed, and he's like, I can block it.
That was already a fact in MK9 with Sonya's cartwheel. The only reason why I was that good with Sonya's cartwheel in MK9 is because I was able to do it and get away with it. You try that offline and you will get punished to nothing. So of course there's but that just comes out in the netcode. Because imagine if it had perfect netcode, then I would have to adjust my fighting style because I know the cartwheel isn't safe. So,
but even with MK's really good netcode, it's still Sub-Zero still. It gets a few tiers up online because of
yes, because there's a latency. There is an obvious latency. The guy is already doing the move by the time you are able to react to the low to overhead. And I know what combo you're talking about. Sub-Zero has an overhead to low that's instant. So does she. They gave it to her as well. But Sub-Zero can do it from a farther range. His is more mid-range, hers is up close. Reacting to that stuff takes a ridiculous amount of practice in the game online, because when you try that stuff offline, I've seen people do it all the time. Kenny, you remember what's the name? Doomsday. Doomsday had a move that was an overhead to low instantly.
Instantaneously.
And you could just spam it over and over again to somebody who just didn't understand how to stop it. And with that, trying to do that online even made it worse because that netcode was a problem. But offline, I see pros block it all the time.
Oh yeah, dude.
It wasn't even an issue for them. So
Yeah,
I was like, okay, like I guess it wasn't that dangerous after all. But the reality is that online just makes things different. So you're going to see a lot of different people winning, playing, and entering EVO online. I think the entrance, because they haven't even announced like who can enter yet, right? Or they haven't announced the opening rosters for how many people. There's going to be so many. What?
The list.
The list, yeah, the opening list. There's going to be so many people trying to jump in on this tournament. It's going to be insane. And you know who's probably going to be the most? Brazil. Brazil is.
Oh no, they're keeping it. Localized.
Oh, yeah, North America, yeah. Because my God, Brazil.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know they're actually keeping it localized.
So people are not allowed.
A lot of certain games. Yeah, it's gonna.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, that's really good. That's really good because it's going to be still. I think the turnout's going to be huge. There's going to be so many people they just want to play. They just want the opportunity, and they don't have the resources. Who wants to pay what $1,000 to fly themselves out to freaking Vegas?
Vegas ain't cheap.
Not
during EVO because they do convention prices.
Well, not to mention Mandalay Bay is on the higher end of Vegas resorts too. So
there's just a lot of people that wish they could compete, but they can't because they financially can't, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's a really good point about like the more access to people because of like the lower financial responsibility for it.
Oh yeah.
I didn't even think about that, but I mean it's so obvious, and you know. It'll be, like the biggest thing I take away from all this is interesting because however long this lasts, there's always people assume that things will eventually return. The question is like people who come out, like as you said, there might be a lot of new names that are coming out of this, so it might become household names. What happens when we return back to in-person tournaments? Is there going to be a place for online tournaments because of this, or
do we
go back to only in-person tournaments and these people now no longer have the access to do it? Do they get screwed out of this? And are we even going to return back to like how many tournaments are going to be able to keep up with this and come back next year or in 2 years whenever they can come back?
That's why I think that EVO made a great idea by calling it EVO 2020 Online, or is it EVO Online 2020? So EVO Online 2020 is supposed to be separate from EVO, and it's supposed to be different from EVO Japan. So it's literally 3 separate EVOs.
Yeah.
So EVO 2020 Online might be the first of many, and that could just be its own thing. And then other like Combo Breaker, other tournaments will start to follow suit. Combo Breaker Online 2021, you know what I mean? And then next year, more and more online tournaments might start happening. It comes down to the netcode. Once more companies start realizing that netcode is as important as the game itself, the netcode will get better. And we've seen it. We've seen the transition from MK9 days to now.
Oh my God,
we still complain about, bad netcode like with Smash, but the fact is that online is getting better. It is. People are figuring out the netcode. It's getting better, and it takes companies like Nintendo to catch up, which they're taking their sweet fucking time, but they are starting to catch up. And once that becomes more regulated, you'll start seeing a lot more EVO online tournaments and a lot more Combo Breaker online tournaments and so on and so forth. And just like with the arcade days, I hate to say it, but that might actually replace, the tournament scene, which is, I'd hate to say it, but let's face it, home consoles killed the arcade scene. And that might be the case with online scene and online tournaments as well. Who knows where the future might go, but.
Like you said, though, it'll take all the companies catching up to say where KI is. And Mortal
100%.
Kombat is. Like
it's the same thing with
Namco and Capcom need to be at the level of Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct's netcode.
Yeah,
and once they are there, you're right. That might actually be dangerous in a way for in-person tournaments. Although I would argue that there's an out for tournaments, because tournaments can be more than just the actual tournament itself. It can be a very cool place to meet and socialize, and
the networking.
But that's the same thing with arcades. The arcades was that you were able to go there, you were socializing,
right? But arcades had
the arcade.
Right, but they had one problem that arcades always were very kind of like crunched together in sort of like cramped, small, dingy areas. When you go to a tournament, you're going into like a convention center or a giant conference room. So there's a little more. And here's the thing, like tournaments exist because arcades don't, in a way.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they're more of
People are
like
longing for that. Yeah.
because the thing is humans we're social creatures. So
Yeah.
I think there always will be. Maybe there won't be the like Mike was saying. Maybe there's not a tournament every weekend. Maybe that doesn't happen anymore. Maybe it's like a smaller number of big key tournaments throughout the year. You know, there's the big one in Chicago, the big one in Florida, the big one in Vegas. You know, maybe it's a little more, you know, scaled back or whatever. But I still think that there's going to be a social aspect, and maybe, you know, if online gets to that perfect level, then that's bad for tournaments in one sense, but it also is probably a good call for tournaments. Hey, embrace your social aspect of it. Make yourselves mini conventions, not just tournaments, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Which is, you know, we'll see if they adapt. But, you know, we didn't see the arcades adapt too well in America. Like now they're turning into barcades, which is like, man, that should have happened 20 years
ago.
ago.
Family Fun was trying to back in the day. Well, not barcades, but back in the day, Family Fun was adding consoles and doing tournaments and doing things and stuff.
They were trying to adapt.
But I think that at the end of the day, what it was the owner, like the owner of that whole area, was just trying to get them out, because especially that church we want them out. And I've heard stories.
That was the other problem, though. Like arcades got a stigma in America. And that really hurt them from a landlord perspective. Whereas a tournament is just, you go to a convention center or whatever and you just reserve this room for this weekend. It's not like a permanent residence thing like an arcade is supposed to be. Maybe that'll help it. I don't know.
But I mean, like I said, isn't the arcade scene in Japan losing momentum as well?
Yeah, it is. But it's still there. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to see. It's a very, I mean, I hope you guys, we can all go maybe someday afterwards, before it's all gone, just to like sort of, it's a nice little time portal, you know, step back into this. Oh, I remember this is so great. I could just go step into this arcade and, you know, challenge people and do some fun stuff. I don't know. But
I mean, it's the same idea of the internet cafe. Like those were the big things for a while, and people just realized, well, I can just set this up on my house. And
on my phone.
Yeah, on my phone or something like that.
But
the same thing with tournaments is like, oh, well, like Simmons was saying, like with the VR headset, people just want convenience. They don't want to set up a VR stuff. For the casual consumer, they don't want to do that. For the casual consumer, they don't want to have to go out to tournaments. They would just rather, okay, well, I can just enter this tournament online, and I have the same netcode as Killer Instinct, so I'm just going to go in and enter that instead of going to the arcade. I mean, so most people are like that.
The most godlike netcode, it's still not close to the offline experience. It's as close as you can humanly get, but it's still, like, you know, some people will say it's not there. I think there could be room for both. I mean, you know, hey, we can have Evo online, we can have Evo Japan, and we can have Evo.
Yeah, I think for sure, Kenny. I think you're right, because
Evo physical.
I think Evo's big enough that it can exist side by side.
Oh yeah.
And some of these tournaments are big enough to exist side by side. But I think we probably might lose if everything got to that level. Like we might lose some of those really smaller
ones. Yeah, that's what
that happen every single weekend. Which that's kind of
because that's like saying, because I mean Evo is like, oh well, we lost Circuit City. Well, you still have Best Buy. Because Best Buy is like the biggest thing, and Circuit City was just kind of like the smaller things. You see the wave that's coming, but you know the bigger ones are still going to survive that wave up to an extent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Evo's kind of one of those things where, like, there's a lot of people, myself included. I don't go to Evo to compete. I go to Evo to go to Evo.
Yeah, exactly.
I go to Evo to see people.
More than just the tournament at that point. So that's where that comes into factor as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, the going in person experience is always going to be there for every type of like sporting event and stuff. But I mean, there's obviously no denying like how much streaming has led to, you know, more people being exposed to this, a different way to experience. Like, I mean, I went to Evo for so many years, and then now I'm just like, I'm content just to watch it on Twitch and stuff, because I mean, also coverage has improved and stuff. But yeah, I do hope the situation that can arise from this is that, as you said, Kenny and Steve, that online versions of existing in-person tournaments complement each other, and that the more of them start happening, and that companies feel a little bit more pressure now, as all three of you have been arguing, to get with Netcode, because this situation has shown that there might be times in the future where you need this, or otherwise you're going to fall behind. Like, this is a unique situation, but clearly some of the biggest names in fighting games are not able to be hold a candle to the other ones who have much better netcode. And who's to say, like, as you said, like the coming wave, you know, what's the next one that we might see might favor those who have the best netcode for whatever reason.
Yeah. And yeah, it's an interesting thing, but it all kind of hinges very much on whether or not these companies get to that level that NRS, Skullgirls, and Killer Instinct is at. They've got to get to that level of netcode, of connectivity, before I think you can really see those giant waves of change come through.
Hey, I'd say the same thing with crossplay too, man. These companies need to catch up. Like, people are demanding crossplay. People are demanding better netcode. Like this stuff shouldn't be an issue now. Like, it's like what Max said, this stuff shouldn't be acceptable by the general public at all. They know that that stuff is fixable easily now, easily. It took one guy to figure out what was wrong with the netcode of Street Fighter V, and it wasn't that hard. The problem is that these companies just aren't doing it. They want to complain about, oh, we don't have enough resources, oh, it's going to take a lot of money, all this. Like, no, it's not. It has been proven fact that it does not take that much to do. All you have to do is do it. So,
well, I wonder if this also comes in, and we've heard these horror stories, Steve, where it's just like companies don't want to do something if they don't think of it.
Yeah, that is what is that called? Being out of touch,
or it's like not invented here or whatever. Like Max,
You know, it's like, hey, we didn't come up with it, so we shouldn't be doing it. You know,
like sometimes I didn't think of it, or it didn't seem like a priority to me, so I don't want to do it. Even if I don't want to focus. Even if you're telling me this is what people want, I don't see it, so I don't want to do it. Like
exactly.
Almost like a nepotism thing.
Yeah. See, here's the thing with developers. I understand where they're coming from a developer aspect, because if you allow too much outside influence, change the way you make your game, it could ruin your game. You have to be inclusive at a certain point, so that you make what you want to, so that the general public can absorb it. But when they speak the truth about, latency and crossplay and stuff like that, maybe you should listen, but it's difficult for them to see the difference, because you have a company like NetherRealm that kind of listens too much, and they just start changing things at random, and it kind of messes up the game. And then you have companies like, who would I use? I guess I'd say Capcom, that just doesn't listen at all. And they just do whatever the fuck, like they just do whatever they want. So there has to be a balance there. And I think it's very difficult.
Yeah, I agree. Although I really do appreciate and admire NetherRealm being as receptive to their audience.
I appreciate it 100%. The fact
and it's paid off for them, right? Like they make,
for the most part,
they sell way more on their MK and Injustice games than anyone else, even Tekken. Or at least close. So it's like
highest selling fighting game in history.
They're
Smash.
They're reaping their rewards.
Yeah, I feel you, Steve.
It's not a fighting game. It's not a fighting. It's a brawler. It's a brawler. It's a brawler.
A fighting game.
But, right. Now, are we seeing other game companies do this? Are we seeing shooter companies doing online tournaments now too, as well? Are we? Because it's not.
I think a little. I think a little bit's happening. Yeah.
I think everything's tried to like convert. I mean, I'm actually not. I didn't look this up, but like Overwatch League. What are they doing and stuff. Like the big esports things. Like what are they doing in response?
Yeah, because we have to see. That's another thing we have to see too. Like
and
the
I
biggest
wonder.
esport guys.
Yeah, I wonder because like there's a lot of dollars tied up there. A lot of like sponsorship deals. product deals that need to like still happen supposedly, or are those like diminishing because of the situation? Companies don't have enough money and they're pulling out. That's why I was like fearful. Like I'm like, once we come out of this at some point, I do expect there to be fewer tournaments in general, not just in fighting game, but overall, because we saw at the beginning of this tournament organizers freaking out about like when they were delaying canceling and stuff because they don't have the insurance, you can't collect the insurance, they're going to be like, it's going to ruin them. Like we cannot, they are on such a year-to-year basis that it's that's scary and stuff, like how like a years a rich history of a tournament could just be obliterated by this like so easily. It's just like, it's a scary thought.
Well, that's the thing about fighting games and esports and other esports. Like fighting game a fighting game esport is very grassroots. It's very done by, people who really love and care about it and create it, right? Like with CEO and all these other tournaments, they're just created by, a few loving individuals. But when we go to the biggest esports, they're sponsored by the companies themselves. When you have Overwatch, dude, it's Blizzard putting up the arena. I forget there's this other one too. I think it's by Riot, like whatever esport they have their own stadium. They have they have giant their own thing. Like that's their own arena, and it's right across the street. So they're that. But like Evo is put together by a group of individuals, not an entire corporation.
Yeah, I think you're talking about that legendary League game.
Yeah, League of Legends or whatever. I don't know, man.
But
League of Legends,
the Legends of League.
Yeah, and that's the whole different thing. Yeah. I just thought of that.
I mean, let's be fair. There's no comparison of the fighting game community to the massive crowds that you see at like League of Legends or Counter-Strike and all these other sports stuff.
Fortnite and
I'm
stuff.
pretty sure they're going through the same issues where it's like, oh well, it's an online tournament only. Like, how do we figure out if these players are cheating or not, or if somebody's doing something screwy, or what about the latency stuff like that? Max is a big advocate of understanding about the changes of netcode in all of the Call of Duties. He's seen the changes specifically, and he knows that. I think he was the one that told
Simmons
me about.
too. Simmons talks a lot about it as well.
Yeah.
He knows a lot about the servers and
and why they changed this. They changed them on purpose because there was too many people, and they had to change the servers to make it for a wider audience. But with that happening, it ruined the latency in the game.
Well, it's crazy.
Will tell you.
This stuff is like what Steve's talking about. He's referencing stuff that's over 10 years old. So any of like the younger audience who's playing Call of Duty now is like, what? It's always been this way. Like, no, we're talking like 2007 to 2008, 2009. 08 to 09 to 10 is when things started really changing over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about stuff that's over 10 years old now.
Yeah.
But we felt it, like, and I really felt it when I played Modern Warfare Remastered. Now, I'm not saying there was plenty of cheaters in Modern Warfare, but when they released the remastered version, but it ran on a different online setup, oh boy, did I feel it.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't played the game probably like 9, 10 years, right? But I go in, I play remastered, and all of a sudden I go from, I am now having the best games I've ever had, followed by the absolute worst games I've ever had.
Host based.
And it's like, it's not because I'm rusty, because I just had the best game I ever had. I never had a kill death ratio like this in the original game, but now all of a sudden one game I was on top of the world, and that one game later I've never done so poorly. So
it's affecting everybody, not just the fighting game community, but I think it's a little bit worse for the fighting game community, because when it comes to a fighting game versus a shooter game, me personally, I see the differences in needing to have specific frame perfect fights, as opposed to, okay, I might have dropped like 2 or 3 frames, but I can still shoot this guy that's right in front of me, It could become horribly bad when the guy is literally skipping through time and he's all over the map and flying and like that.
But not even that too.
I get that there's an issue, but if you lose like maybe 1 or 2 frames of latency in a shooter, you can be fine.
No, that's death, because this guy will see you a half second
Yeah, he'll
before
see
you
a half
see
a
him,
second
and
free
it's
earlier,
curtains.
something
That's
Um,
like
It can be, but I get what I think I get what Steve's
yeah,
saying.
it's
though,
not
because
as specific. It's not as specific as in a fighting game. If you miss a
just because, yeah,
yeah,
you're
every
right
frame.
there.
Yes, because
Mhm.
people who are the professionals, they're what we like to call frame counters. They know exactly how many frames it takes for that punch or that kick or that special move
or the
where
combo
you
you
can
just did.
punish it correctly. If you're missing 1 or 2 frames off of that, you will get like destroyed because you can't punish correctly. And that's the difference in between those two. And you have to be able to, it has to be perfect. It has to be perfect. And I think online wise is a huge difference in it when it comes to fighting games as opposed to shooters. Now, I'm not a professional shooter. I can't speak for them all. And like Kenny said, there's a huge difference when, somebody can see you before you see them. But I think it's a lot different when it comes to fighting games.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think they're more intense, and they're more like, it's more like every single millisecond counts in a fighting game.
Yes. In a fighting game.
Like when you die in a first-person shooter, you respawn, and then there's like a couple seconds till you run back to where the battle or the action is, right?
Yeah,
in a fighting game, there's no moment where you can rest. Every single millisecond counts.
Yeah.
And that's why it gets frustrating. And again, that's probably why, maybe in a way, why it didn't blow up on esports as much as some of the other genres, where it's like, it's so intensive and it's so important every single nanosecond that it's frustrating to try to deal with that, especially in an online setting.
I mean, like, seriously, do you need every frame when you're playing World at War or when you're playing League of Legends? Do the frames matter when you're clicking on I'm going to use magic attack?
I couldn't tell you because I haven't played it. So
yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay.
I mean, it does. I feel like a button doesn't register on the frame you put for any kind of game and something like that.
Of course.
It's always gonna it's gonna matter.
It's gonna impact. Of course. I definitely.
I just know, like,
jump on you. Yeah.
I can only tell you from like Call of Duty, like when you die and respawn in a multiplayer game, like, there's maybe like a few seconds where, okay, whatever, you respawn and then like it lags for a couple frames as you're running back, but it's fine. No one saw you. Nothing happens.
Nothing happened. Yeah.
Like, that's fine. Whatever.
When it comes to because we're talking about tournaments, and if you're in an online tournament, there's no respawn. Like it's like a 6-on-6, and you need to be on point with the area that you're covering so that the rest of your teammates can get to the checkpoint or whatever. And if you're not frame perfect because that other person can see you before you see him, it's a problem, and I can understand that.
I think it's the nature of the pace of the game, Steve. Like, fighting game is such a fast pace, and like it's so confined that there's less of like quote unquote downtime for if that latency issue happens. It's acceptable because you were in a safe state. Like in a Call of Duty match, you're in a spot where, okay, we're not near anyone right now, we're fine. It happened. Let's just whenever it happens during something an important moment, it's always going to be bad. But I think there are more chances in a fighting game for it to happen where it's going to critically affect the match than it will be in most other types of games.
100%. I agree with you 100%. That's exactly what I was trying to get at. Yeah.
But shooters will see this and they'll get angry at us because they'll.
Yes, I know exactly. Like,
shooters will be like, "You are stupid because I need every one of those frames."
I mean, there is. If you're in a firefight part, it absolutely matters. And the firefight part, it's like it's just as critical. It absolutely is critical. So, I mean, it's not saying that's any more acceptable. It's just like statistically, it's probably more likely to ruin or the experience in a fighting game than I would say in like a match of like Call of Duty.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when you see the Overwatch League normally, not this year, they're playing LAN, right? They have like a team of whatever 4 or 5,
almost
when they do it normally. Yes, it's not.
It's LAN. They're on a stage, and like they're what is it, 4 or 5 computers are just set up opposite to the other team's other 5. It's not a
online.
Yeah, it's not online.
They don't do online. There's stories of like League of Legends and Riot, horror stories in their early days of trying to do online and like server connection stuff where they like lost entire matches they had to throw away.
I remember that story of what was it? One of the players had to retire because they called out a girl for being really good at the game, and she was playing online, and they said, oh, well, she's obviously cheating, she's playing online.
Oh yeah.
So they invited her to a tournament where there was LAN play, and she bodied the living life out of the guy, and he had to retire.
Yeah,
And I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that was.
I remember that too. I remember that story. That was a good feel good story.
So
You're cheating. You fight me for real, okay? Oh,
yeah, you fight me for real. I'll put my reputation on the line and my career on the line. They're like, okay, I'll come down there, and it was a wrap. So, it is definitely different, even for people who are playing these shooters and LOL game, all these type of games as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I do got to retract back what I said. I do feel that it is roughly the same for, those people. Obviously, it's just that we can't see it from our perspective because we don't play that game. We just assume.
But but like I think too, what Mike said, it's literally you're on, like, right, and like you say, shooter. Yeah, it can happen. There's a fighting game. As soon as this says fight, it's on, and 100%. Like maybe in a shooter, you got to run from this end of the field.
There can't be a drop within that entire match.
Yeah,
and when you're playing a first-person shooter, you can have,
if you're running from
times.
point A to point B, there's a drop or something like that, but you're just running or something like that. But but to shooters, yes, it's very important to you.
Like a fighting game, like there's a clock. It's like 100 seconds or less, usually 60 seconds, and it starts counting down immediately. So you've got very small window to do anything in a fighting game.
Yeah, you're not going to hide or camp or anything like that. You could zone, but that's about as much.
But yeah, either way, like all of this, all overall, it is overall. I think it's important. Online is now more important than ever.
Yes.
But I think it is frustrating from a Nintendo perspective because they've really not said anything about improving or adding to their online.
You want Waluigi.
Right, because I want Waluigi. And like you have they haven't I don't even think any new games came out this month for the NES or SNES.
No.
Like even their basic service isn't really getting much updates. Like the last games we got were great, like Panel de Pon and Wild Guns, but it just seems like this is the moment where Nintendo really needs to be really focused on their online delivery system, not just for Smash, but for everything.
Well, it's kind of like what we said before. It comes down to the public outcry. The public outcry is for Waluigi. The public outcry isn't for more minorities in the game. The public outcry isn't for better latency or better netcode in the game. Yeah, they hear it, but it's still nothing compared to
Waluigi. At the end of the day,
the general consensus is talk with your wallet.
Exactly. But nobody's willing to do that.
They're not going to do it. We don't support the game.
Truth
but guess
also,
what? Guess what the problem is? We are the biggest complainers about that stuff. But guess what? I own a copy of Smash. You own a copy. Simmons owns a copy, and so does Kenny. And guess what? He bought the online. We all bought the online, and we also all bought the DLC. What are we complaining about? What are we complaining? We should just shut up right now. Shut your mouth.
One DLC I did not buy.
There's a lot to love about Smash. We already talked about how much there's to love about Smash Brothers and the other stuff. It's totally, I think it's totally good and acceptable to push back and be like, hey, we love all this about this game, but maybe you could start working on online. Like everything else about this game is really good, but this could be somewhere for you to improve.
Kenny said it the best. He was like, you know what? The companies are like, it's a successful game. We made a lot of money. What else do you want? It's perfect. We made the game.
Or not even that. It's just like you're going to a restaurant and there's like a bunch of hair in your food and you're still eating the hair. And I'm like, I don't like it. I love this restaurant. It's my favorite restaurant.
Bro, first of all, you're complaining about the hair. You're eating the hair. And then you ask for seconds for more hair.
This sounds like a Homer Simpson thing right here.
Right? Homer Simpson and you're still complaining. You're like, bro, can we not have hair in our soup?
It'll say anything. Well, whatever. I'll eat the hair. I don't care. I'll eat it.
Can I get some dessert with more hair? Sure. Here we go. We have more hair in this dessert.
You don't want to stop.
Yeah, you're gonna buy it. Oh well, it's your own fault. Stop complaining.
I think that's probably gonna do it for this episode.
All right, man.
Good talks though. Like we covered a lot of stuff here. I'm really glad I got all three of you on here actually.
Hey. Sorry I was late, but yeah, man.
Thank you.
Monster game session, but I really wanted to be a part of this.
Yeah. tackling new character min, talking about fighting games, fighting game community, tournaments, representation, online netcode. Because I know you all are passionate about this subject. I also know, like as you mentioned, like Max Milling Dude is too, making those videos and stuff, covering it and stuff.
Yeah.
And we also made a video about Smash Brothers, his idea for what they should do with Smash. Maybe some of you can who are listening or watching on this, you can check that out as well. But before I go, some housekeeping stuff real quick. Thank you everyone who submitted a question to this episode of Friend Code. If you're a $5 and up patron on our patreon.com/easyallies, you can submit questions for consideration for an episode of Friend Code when I make the post each week of recording. Look out for that. Thank you for your support that way. I also have some shout outs. We have a shout out tier for our Patreon for the month of May 2020. So I got to give shout outs to Blue, Elthanis, Caleb Togi Crawford, Greg the Dark Knight Kettering, and Black Lives Matter. Shout out. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you.
And before we wrap up here, let's go around the horn. I'll start with you, Steve. Where people can check out your stuff and follow you if they want to, stay in touch and stuff.
Sure. If you want to check out my content, most of my stuff is on Twitch. You can look for me at infinite_SGE. I am on Twitch. You could also talk to me on my Twitter under the same name. Check me out. I also have a Facebook fan page. Check me out, infinite.sge. Check out my YouTube channel, which is currently work in progress, infinite_SGE under the same name. And you can catch me on all of those platforms if you like.
What about you, Simmons?
Okay. Oh yeah. On Twitch, twitch.tv/assistmedoom, which is where I do my personal Twitch, which is tends to be right now a lot of Call of Duty with
Call of Duty.
Nice.
Call of Duty with
Black
Kenny,
Ops.
and then a lot of Xenoblade right now. I do every Monday I play a Monolith Soft game. So if you're really into that stuff, you can head on over there, twitch.tv/assistmedoom. And then I run the official YoVideoGames channel on YouTube, which is the sister channel to Max's. It's not the main channel, but youtube.com/YoVideoGames. You get a lot of me, Kenny, Steve, and Max on that channel, and a lot of my other stuff like personal reviews for video games there. So YoVideoGames on YouTube.
Nice, dude. And Kenny, where can people check you out, man?
It's Unruly with 3 O's. It's UNROOOLIE, and that's on everything. You'll find it on Twitter, on Twitch, on YouTube. Just a Tinder, Grinder, all that. It's just Unruly. You'll find me on there. So if you want more fighting game and more adventures with Simmons and Black Ops, we still love that game. So yeah, you can catch me outside over there.
Well, thank you, all three of you. And just like us at Easy Allies being affected by all this, we can't get together. I know the four of you not being able to get back together at Max's place. I'm sure you're looking forward to that time when you could get back together. But again, thanks for I watch your guys' streams and stuff too. So very entertaining as always. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me for this podcast.
Oh, so it's been a collab I wanted to do for a while.
Thanks. And until next time, everybody, may the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.
Peace out.
Yo.
I'll do this. Ooh.
The princess wave?
Ooh, yeah, it's this wave. That's how you do it. Yeah,
the Disney princess.
There you go. Oh, yeah, I got double hands. Yeah.
Oh.
See, now I'm really...
Do three.